special board meeting. I appreciate you being here today, and I would ask for your cooperation. It's a very important matters we're dealing with today that can be very emotional, and I would ask that we try and focus on the issues specifically at hand. So thank you. We'll call to order. Welcome to the special board meeting of Halton Catholic District School Board on Monday, April 26th. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed on our YouTube and we'll be posting on the board's YouTube channel. Trustees, be reminded to turn off your microphone and camera on your devices until you are recognized to speak. Please only use the chat box to type hand up. Once you've been recognized, please turn on your microphone and camera. Opening prayer, national anthem, and oath of citizenship. Trustee Roshdi, would you please lead us in the opening prayer?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Dear Lord, as we rise to meet each new day, please let us be filled with your Spirit wherever we go. Let us spread love, joy, peace, and goodness, and fulfillment. Let us desire to become more like you and to worship you in all we do. Help us desire these things so much, more than the sin that entices us. Thank you for always going before us. In Jesus' name, Amen. Please rise for the national anthem.
technical difficulties. Can you hear us? Maybe you could acknowledge.
I can as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Trustee O'Brien, did you have your hand up? Was it regarding the technical difficulties?
Regarding technical difficulties, thank you. It's a point of privilege.
Thank you. Before we move to the approval of the agenda, I would like to make a suggestion. If we can move if we have consensus to move item 4.1 response to April 2021 delegations to the spot after 4.2 support for diverse communities, since the delegations related to that topic. Do we have consensus? Is anybody opposed to that move? Trustee Ntamasi?
I'm opposed to that, Mr. Chair.
Opposed? So alternatively, we can.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
I would suggest we already have a complicated and agenda ahead of us. I think we should stick to the order that everybody anticipated.
No problem at all. We'll do that. If there wasn't consensus, I didn't want to, as it's a good point, I didn't want to try and complicate anything any further. So we'll move on to item 2, which is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move a point of order.
Can you state your point of order, Trustee Ntamasi?
Yes, I believe that the agenda as put forward by yourself in conjunction with the Vice and the Secretary is biased. The bylaws have not been applied properly. I think that the amount of subject matter that has been removed from 9.5 goes beyond a variance. And I think that we need to put it to a vote to see how the rest of the trustees feel. Furthermore, there has not been full disclosure insofar as our bylaws were required to provide our public all of the information that's received. At the last meeting, the board did not fulfill that obligation, and I consider this particular meeting, and I want it on record, as being an illegal meeting, regardless of both the parliamentarian and the legal opinion received by Macmillan. So my motion as it is now would be for approving of this particular agenda, it would require a 2/3 majority.
So you've moved a point of order, and I will rule on your point of order. As the information provided to all trustees through our parliamentarian and legal, where they illustrate with reference to our bylaws and in some parts the Education Act, that we did call this meeting in accordance with our rules and the agenda. So therefore, I rule against your point of order.
Mr. Chair, you're not dealing with the matter that I raised. The matter that I raised is that full disclosure, the legal opinion did not deal with full disclosure. When I speak to full disclosure, I'm referring to the correspondence and all the emails that were required to be presented at the last meeting for public consumption. We did not do that. In our legal opinion and the parliamentarian's opinion, I spoke to the parliamentarian and I stated that fact. Neither of the opinions deal with that particular subject matter.
So I will rule on your point. To the best of my knowledge, we have provided and added all the correspondence for those who wish to be added. That's my ruling. Trustee Ntamasi, I've ruled. You can appeal the ruling and we can take that to a vote.
All right, then tell me what am I referring to? Then explain to me when you refer to correspondence, how many pieces of correspondence were included in our brief at the April 16th meeting? There were only 200. Yet we had received at that time over 700. We're obligated to provide all of that disclosure to all of our ratepayers.
Trustee Ntamasi, my ruling is that we added the correspondence that was requested. It is not up for debate. It is up for appeal. If you wish to appeal, we can take that to a vote.
I do. I wish to appeal it. Let's take it to a vote.
So Trustee Agnew, how do you vote?
Point of privilege, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Carabella.
Could you please explain again when we vote for the appeal? If we're in.
So in favor, basically, Trustee Antomasi is stating that our agenda is not legal, and if the agenda is not approved, then we have no business here today. Trustee Agnew, how do you vote? Sorry, Trustee Carabella.
Sorry, I'm always confused on this one because it's a bit of a negative vote, right? So if you're in favor of Trustee Antomasi, then we are in favor of the appeal?
You're in favor of the appeal. You're in favor of the appeal. My ruling is that the agenda is lawful. His appeal is that it is not. So if you're in favor of the appeal, the agenda is not lawful and this meeting will end.
Okay.
How do you, sorry, Trustee Agnew?
Opposed to the appeal.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm in favor of the appeal.
Trustee Duarte? Opposed. Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Antomasi?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Chernata?
Opposed.
Trustee Gubert?
Opposed.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed.
Trustee Roshti?
Opposed.
And Trustee Murphy is also opposed, so the appeal fails. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing that there are none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Vice Chair Duarte, seconded by?
I'll second. Trustee Guzzo.
Trustee Guzzo. Trustee O'Brien, do you have a point of privilege?
No, I was going to move it.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. We will go to a recorded vote. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Vice Chair Duarte? In favor. Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Antomasi?
Against.
Trustee Carabella?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn-Chernata?
In favor.
Trustee Gubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Roshti?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee Murphy's in favor also. Motion carries. The agenda is approved. Are there any conflicts of interest? Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to action items. Response to April 2021 delegations. On April 20th, 2021, trustees were presented with 5 delegations that are to be responded to. In accordance with our bylaws and policy I-6, delegations to the boards, we have 4 options. Trustees may move a motion to receive these delegations as information, defer the matter to a future meeting, request a staff report on this matter to be considered at a future meeting, make a decision on this matter today. I will open up the floor to any trustee who may want to put a motion on the floor on how to proceed with the first delegation. Vice Chair Duarte? Oh, sorry, Trustee O'Brien. Trustee O'Brien, then Vice Chair Duarte.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put forward a motion in response to the first delegation.
Please make that motion.
Be it resolved that only the Canadian flag will fly at any of the schools of the Halton Catholic District School Board, as well as the Catholic Education Center. I'll repeat that. Be it resolved that only the Canadian flag will fly at any of the schools of the Halton Catholic District School Board, as well as the Catholic Education Center.
I'll second that motion.
So Trustee O'Brien, that motion is not in order since there is a motion on the agenda that takes precedence over that. Item 4.2.
I gotta get a parliamentary opinion on that, considering that no other motion has been read yet to deal with this matter. No
Certainly,
motion.
certainly we'll ask Mr. Kapoor. Can we have your opinion on that matter?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Roberts is clear that a motion that is under the control of the Assembly takes precedence over a new motion, such as the one that was just proposed. The motion under item 4.2 was provided as notice of motion and is taken as read. Therefore, that this motion would conflict with consideration of item 4.2. And my advice to you, Chair, is as you ruled, that it would be out of order. That was part of the thinking of trying to adjust the order of the agenda earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. So my ruling stands that it is out of order.
I appeal that ruling.
So we'll move that to, we'll go to a recorded vote. Vice Chair Duarte?
Could you clarify?
So the appeal, if you're in favor of the appeal, you're opposing my ruling. So my ruling is that Trustee O'Brien's motion is not in order. If you are in favor of the appeal, you are saying his motion is in order.
I'm opposed.
Vice Chair Duarte is opposed. Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed. Opposed.
Trustee Intomasi?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. So my understanding was that that Trustee O'Brien under 4.1 was speaking to the delegations, and we were answering the delegations. We weren't addressing 4.2.
You can trust Parliamentarian Kapoor. Would you like to provide your explanation again, or clarity on your explanation, I should say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try. The motion that was made in response to the delegation was one that would conflict with a motion that is under the control of the Assembly and not finally disposed. And main motions of that nature are out of order under Roberts.
So point of clarification. It cannot be out of order because the whole delegation speaks to the flag. That's germane to the topic on the table, which now belong to the board because they were presented and dealt with. So any trustee is open to be able to put forward an amended motion or a clarifying motion because we're speaking to those delegations as a whole.
Chair, that was raised as a point of, through you, Chair, if I may.
Yes, as a point of clarification.
That was raised as a point of
Point of
clarification. I didn't hear a question.
So would you like me to repeat the question, Parliamentarian Kapoor?
If you have a point of clarification, Trustee Intomasi, could you please state your question?
So my point of clarification has two parts. The first part is we were speaking on on action item 4.1. Action item 4.1 speaks to the delegations that were presented. It does not address 4.2. Second part, since all of the responses to the delegation are germane to the flag, then Trustee O'Brien's point of order should be valid.
I will try to clarify. Not every response to the delegation necessarily would conflict with the motion that is under item 4.2. A motion under 4.1 that would conflict with the motion in 4.2 would be out of order. Other motions that would respond to the delegation but not conflict with 4.2 would be in order to be considered at this time.
Point of order.
Point of order. Yeah, go ahead.
We're dealing with one point of order at a time.
Okay.
So the ruling stands. The point of order for Trustee Antomasi is not well taken. We are in the middle of a vote on appeal.
I will let the vote finish.
Thank you. So Trustee Antomasi, how do you vote on the appeal?
I vote in favor of the appeal.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor?
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata?
Oppose.
Trustee Goubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed.
Trustee Roshdi? Trustee Roshdi? We'll come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew?
Opposed.
Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
And Trustee Murphy is opposed. Trustee Roshdi, are you there? Trustee Roshdi's vote will not impact the results. The appeal fails. Vice Chair Duarte, you have your hand up.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to put a motion to accept the response to delegations as information.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
So receive receive delegation 1 as information, moved by Vice Chair Duarte, seconded by Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata. Trustee Guzzo, how do you vote?
In favor.
Trustee Antomasi?
Against.
Trustee Carabella?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata?
In favor.
Trustee Goubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Roshdi? Trustee Roshdi? We'll come back. Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm opposed.
Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
And Trustee Murphy's in favor. Passes. That delegation is.
Mr. Chair, point of order. Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes, Trustee O'Brien.
Mr. Chair, my point of order is that for the next 4 delegations, keep in mind the fact that item 4.2, which our parliamentary referred to, that has never been read at the assembly.
Understood. Parliamentarian Kapoor can speak to the mechanics of it probably better than I, but basically you can't put a motion in ahead of one that takes precedence that was put on our agenda as a notice of motion. Parliamentarian Kapoor, you could probably speak better to that than I could.
Keep in mind this fact, this motion has never been read to the assembly.
Understood.
Yeah.
That was the
I'll
intention
second
of
that,
trying
Mr.
to
Orr.
move.
Mr. Chair,
Trying to move
there's
that.
another point of order associated with that, and that is since the motion has never been read,
We're
then it
dealing,
does not
sorry,
belong
Trustee
to the board
Antomasi.
yet.
Trustee Antomasi, we're dealing with one point of order at a time, and then once we deal with Trustee O'Brien's point of order, we'll come to yours. Parliamentarian Kapoor, could I have your advice on Trustee O'Brien's point of order?
Yes, Chair. The motion, notice of motion was made at the time that the agenda was adopted at the last regular meeting. It was not reached that item was not reached by the time the meeting adjourned. Your board's past practice has been to take those motions as that notice had been provided and accept them as agenda action items at future meetings. I was following that precedent in giving you the advice that I had.
Thank you. So my ruling stands. Trustee Antomasi, do you have a point of order?
My point of order is that is incorrect. I do not concur with the parliamentarian. A motion does not belong to the board. Until it belongs to the board, it cannot be an action item. That motion has never been read. So I appeal your ruling and the parliamentarian's ruling. If unfinished business is unfinished business, you cannot proceed with an action item without the item being presented and read. And that has never occurred.
Okay, we'll move to voting on the appeal of my ruling. So Trustee Antomasi, how do you vote?
Clarify.
Clarifying, so Trustee Antomasi is appealing my ruling and the advice of Parliamentarian Kapoor that a notice of motion that is on the agenda and carries over takes precedent over the other motions. Is that, Parliamentarian Kapoor, is that an accurate statement? Maybe you can clarify if it's not.
Not accurate.
Yes, Chair, it was, what I heard was correct, that after its appearance, it is taken as read.
Okay, thank you.
So in favor is agreeing?
So in favor is agreeing with the appeal, which means that a motion about a flag from the delegations can be moved. Trustee Antomasi, how do you vote on the appeal?
I'm sorry, I think you've just confused me. So I thought we were talking about 4.2. If we're deliberating 4.2, as the motion never having been read, how does that speak to the delegations? There's no delegations involved. We're talking about whether or not 4.2 was ever read and adopted, and it belongs to the board. It does not belong to the board because it never was read.
The point was that 4.2 takes precedent. That is the point, not the point of it being read. Is that correct, Parliamentarian Kapoor?
But what precedents? I don't understand.
Trustee Antomasi, please follow protocol.
Mr. Chair, the provisions for providing notice of motion, as in 912, indicate how notice of motion is to be given. And the board in its precedent has accepted notices of motion as being given in cases where it was presented during the time of agenda adoption, even if it wasn't reached by the end of that meeting. At the next regular meeting, it was placed on the action item list. And that is the precedent that I am relying on as your past practice, to say that at the last meeting, last week's regular meeting, this motion was properly on the agenda as an action item. 912 goes on to say that after its appearance on the agenda, it is taken as read. And so that is how I am using the provision of 1026(5) in Roberts, that a motion that is under the control of the Assembly that has not been disposed of takes precedence over a new main motion that would conflict with it. And that is why I gave you the advice I did on the previous motion that was made. And that remains the same.
I have a point of privilege, Chair.
Sorry, Trustee O'Brien, what's your point of privilege?
Oh, my point of order is
point of privilege, or you have a point of order? We're dealing with a point of order at the moment.
My point of order is Robert's rules does.
Sorry, Trustee O'Brien, we're currently dealing with a point of order.
All right, I will wait.
Thank you. So is the appeal clear? Trustee Vice Chair Doerr, do you need more clarification? Yes. It's clear? Okay. Trustee Antomasi, how do you vote on the appeal?
I'm in favor of my appeal.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Chernata?
Opposed.
Trustee Goober?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed.
Trustee Roshdi? Trustee Roshdi? We'll come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew?
No, I'm in here, Mr. Chair. Sorry, my
Okay.
button was
How
not
do
on.
you vote?
I'm abstaining, actually.
Abstaining. Okay. Trustee Agnew?
Opposed?
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm in favor, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Duarte?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
And Trustee Murphy is opposed. The appeal fails. Trustee
Point of order.
O'Brien, did you have a point of order or point of privilege?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Our bylaws 1.3 Robert's Rules of Order states, in any instance of or instances not provided in statute or in the bylaw, board policies and regulations, or the Education Act, Robert's Rules of Order shall govern insofar as they are applicable. There's nothing here about past practices. Not having something read is not mentioned in our bylaws. It's not in the Education Act. It's not in statutes, but it is in Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules does say a motion has to be physically read in an assembly. The words have to come out of your mouth, Mr. Chair, or at least the person making the motion before it belongs to the assembly. So that's my point of order.
Thank you.
Whatever it is on 4.2 and looking at it, one would not want to know what it is until it is read. So that's my point of order.
Understood your point of order. So my ruling is, as Parliamentarian Kapoor had read, that once it is moved as a notice of motion and it is on the agenda, it's taken as read. Parliamentarian Kapoor, can you reread that section?
Yeah, yes, Chair. Section the bylaws are superior to Robert's Rules, and the bylaw 912 says that it shall, after its appearance on the agenda, be taken as read, unless any trustee requests it be read in full, which would be at the time.
Thank you, Parliamentarian Kapoor. So we will uphold that ruling. So my speakers list is a little messed up. Vice Chair Duarte, did you have your hand up to speak to something, or did I get to you already?
No, Mr. Chair. We are going to next item, right? The response.
The next item, right.
So I'd like to put a motion, Mr. Chair, to accept that as information.
So this is item 2. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder to accept delegation 2 as information?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee O'Hearn-Turnauta. We'll move to recorded vote. Trustee Carabella?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn-Turnauta?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Goubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Rochdy?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm opposed.
Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Intomasi?
Against.
Trustee Murphy's in favor. Item 2 is accepted as information. Moving on to item 3, Trustee Guzzo, do you have your hand up?
No, I withdrew.
Okay, Trustee Duarte, I see your hand up.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for the next delegation, I'd like to move a motion to accept the delegation as information.
Thank you. So we're going on to item delegation 3. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Trustee O'Hearn-Turnauta. We'll go to a recorded vote. Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn-Turnauta?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Goubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Rochdy?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm opposed.
Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Intomasi?
Mr. Chair, so you cut out. Could you repeat the motion on the table
So yes, the motion on the table is to accept Delegation 3's information. Was moved by Vice Chair Duarte. It was seconded by Trustee O'Hearn Trunota. I'll go through the recorded vote to this point. Trustee O'Brien opposed.
No, I won't need that. I'm against. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Carabella?
Opposed.
Trustee Murphy's in favor. Motion carries. Moving on to item 4. Trustee Duarte, is that your hand?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that Delegation 4 be accepted as information.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Trustee O'Hearn Trunota. We'll move to recorded vote. Trustee O'Hearn Trunota?
In favor.
Trustee Goober?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Roshdi?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm opposed.
Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Antomasi?
Against.
Trustee Carabella?
Against.
Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee Murphy is in favor. Motion carries. Last item, item number 5. Trustee Duarte, is that your hand?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move a motion to accept Delegation 5 as information.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Trustee O'Hearn Trunota. We'll move to recorded vote. Trustee Goubert?
Wait, get ready.
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Roshdi?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm opposed.
Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Antomasi?
Opposed.
Trustee Carabella?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn Trunota?
In favor.
And Trustee Murphy's in favor. Motion carries. Moving on to our next action item. 4.2. This notice of motion is from April 6, 2021 regular board meeting. Trustee Agnew, would you like to read the motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Trustee O'Brien.
I object to the consideration of the question. I object to the consideration of the question.
Mr. Chair,
Do you have a point of order?
could we have a parliamentary clarification?
Yes, Mr. Kapoor.
Yes, Chair.
Trustee
Objection.
O'Brien is objecting to the question.
To the consideration of the question, Mr. Kapoor.
He's objecting to the consideration of a question, which is in Roberts. It doesn't appear. It does appear in your list. It would require. I'm just checking if it requires a seconder, but it would require a 2/3 vote against consideration of the question.
Parliamentary, Mr. Chair, could I ask for an understanding of what it means, the object to consideration, and what the implications are?
Definitely. So once Trustee Kapoor gives us the answer on whether it needs to be seconded or not, we'll ask your question.
Point of privilege, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Trustee Guzzo.
I don't, what are we considering? I think I might have missed something.
Trustee O'Brien has moved a point to consider.
I object to the consideration of the question.
Right.
What question?
Of the motion.
Of
bringing the motion to the floor.
Yeah, question and
Yes.
motion are the same word.
So, Chair, the the trustee is objecting to consideration of, I presume, item 4.2.
Right.
And that does not require a second. It is not debatable, and it would require a 2/3 vote against consideration to sustain the objection and prevent this motion from being considered.
Which would be, in this case, would be 6 or 7?
2/3 of, in this case, it would require 6 votes against consideration.
So 6 votes against. Trustee Carabella, could you ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had to ask for clarification. So what are the implications of this object to consideration?
Parliamentary Kapoor?
Yes, if the objection to the consideration is sustained, that is, there's 2/3 votes against consideration, then the main motion is dismissed for this session, which would be this meeting.
Parliamentary opinion, please, Mr. Chair.
Do you have a clarifying question, Trustee O'Brien?
Yes, Mr. Kapoor, if it does sustain, that is, if the 2/3 does go through, will it appear on the minutes, this voting? That is, the vote we would take to object to the consideration, because the item is being removed from the table completely at this session. Will the vote actually register on the minutes?
I would advise, in my opinion, the vote on objection to consideration would be recorded.
That would be my understanding also. It's an action item and we record our action items. To clarify.
Mr. Chair?
Please, you go ahead.
Sorry. I would like this fully explained to me, exactly where it is in the bylaws and what this means, because I need to understand this, and I think that it would be imperative that the people listening in understand exactly what's happening. So if I'm having a difficult time understanding it, and you know, I'm not an expert on the bylaws by any means, but I'm fairly familiar with them, I think others will. So, and I need to be able to vote on this accordingly. So I need to understand exactly what's happening, and I don't.
Understood. So Parliamentary Kapoor, can we read the bylaw and then maybe you could give an overview or try and impart an understanding of the motion itself or the action itself?
Certainly.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. The parliamentarian can't read the motion. The motion can only be read by the chair.
He's not reading a motion. I asked him to read the bylaw. Your point of order is overruled. Your point of order is overruled. Trustee Parliamentary Kapoor, could you please read the bylaw and provide an explanation?
Thank you, Chair. Bylaw 1010, in order of precedence, lists the motion objection to consideration, and that it has been moved appropriately at this point, and states clearly that that it's non-debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. I think what I'll do, Chair, is just read section 26(1) of Roberts. The purpose of an objection to the consideration of a question is to enable the Assembly to avoid a particular original main motion altogether when it believes it would be strongly undesirable for the motion even to come before the Assembly. That is the entire part of paragraph 26(1) of the motion. If the recommended format, Chair, is that you ask the question, shall the motion be considered? And if there are 2/3 in the negative, then the motion is not considered for the remainder of the session.
Meaning that it will be moved to the next session?
I would suggest, Chair, that it would need to be brought forward again as a new item for the
through a notice of motion or through discussion if it was germane at the time.
Exactly. Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Pardon me, Trustee O'Hearn-Trinalta, I didn't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
if I could go through you, Mr. Chair, I just need Mr. Kapoor to, what is he read the reason for an objection, and I didn't quite get it. He kind of cut out and out, in and out for me. Could the reason for bringing something forward, an objection? What is the reason for that in Robert's rules?
With your permission, Chair, it is the purpose of an objection to consideration is to enable the Assembly, and presumably the person who raised the objection wishes to avoid a particular original main motion altogether when it or the person believes it would be strongly undesirable for the motion even to come before the Assembly.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Thank you, Parliamentarian Kapoor. So just to confirm, so for this vote, I will be asking, should motion 4.2 be considered? That would be the correct way of wording it. So if you vote in favor, then you're voting for 4.2 to remain to be considered. Is that correct?
That is the recommended way of putting the question, yes.
Okay, so we'll move to a recorded
Sorry,
vote.
sorry, Mr. Chair. Point of clarification again. I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Trustee Agnew.
So I'm still not understanding. So the reason that this is being put forward is because this motion is so undesirable that it not be read at our table. Is that the reason for this coming forward? Is that this is
Point of order.
I'm not trying to understand. I'm trying to understand. Trustee O'Brien.
Point of order.
Order, please. Order. Can we have some decorum? Order.
Point of order.
So all trustees have a right to exercise the bylaws and their rights as they see fit. It is in our bylaws. It has been moved appropriately, so it is well within a trustee's right to do this. So unless there is other clarifications, we'll move to vote.
Point of order goes over her questioning. Point of order.
Sorry, I was ruling, Trustee O'Brien. So do you have a point of order that you'd like to state?
Yes.
Please state it.
Is that it was stated very clearly, and this is Trustee Agnew is asking something that was stated very, very clearly. She's questioning my bringing this forward. That's what's behind her.
So
I want you to rule on that, please.
Yes, so Trustee O'Brien, I did rule against Trustee Agnew's point of order when I said that is well within a trustee's right to move this objection to consider. It's in our bylaws. It was moved forward correctly, and I'm prepared to take it to a vote.
Then let's take it to a vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So again, what we're voting for is should motion 4.2 be considered? In favor, obviously, is you're in favor of the motion being considered. So Trustee, I see in the chat box, Trustee Agnew would like it, you would like a point of privilege, you would like it explained again, or explained more clearly?
Yes.
Oh, explain how. Sorry, the V was gone, so I was trying to see what you were trying to. So how is it voted? So the question I'm asking, should motion 4.2 be considered? So if you want 4.2 to be considered, you would vote in favor. If you're opposed to 4.2, then you would vote opposed. Do we have any other points of clarification? If not, we'll take it to a recorded vote.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, you cut out.
Oh, did I? Okay, so
yeah.
The question I'm asking is, should motion 4.2 be considered? So if you vote in favor, you want 4.2 to be considered. If you vote opposed, then you don't want it to be considered. Is that clear? Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, point of order. I thought we were voting in favor for Trustee O'Brien's motion and against to defeat it.
No, so the wording that was suggested by Parliamentarian Kapoor was that the question should be phrased, should motion 4.2 be considered. So if there's no other questions, I'll move to recorded vote. Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Roshti?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
Would you come back to me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, if I forget you, please remind me.
I will.
Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Intomasi?
Against.
Trustee Carabello?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Guber?
I'm opposed.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm opposed, Mr. Chair.
And Trustee Murphy is in favor. So the 4.2 will be considered. Trustee Agnew, would you like to read the motion? Oh, sorry, before we start, can I ask opinion on everybody? So this is our first chance to debate a very important motion that has had an immense amount of interest in our communities. As you know, as per our bylaws, we have limits on time for debate. I would like to seek consensus to lift those time limits for this item. So trustees would be able to speak for at one time for a amount of time that they feel they're required. I would just ask that we're cognizant and respectful of each other's time and it be held within a reasonable amount of time. If we have consensus, we can move forward in this manner. Is anybody opposed?
I'm opposed.
I'm opposed.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Mr.
yes,
Chair.
Trustee Intomasi?
So are you invoking 10.3 by giving leave to trustees to go beyond the 3-minute timeline?
Yes, the chair does have a discretion to allow trustees to move above the timeline. Trustee Intomasi, you asked me a question. Common courtesy would allow me to answer that question. I feel that this is an important matter that would warrant allowing trustees, and in the spirit of fairness, we need everybody to be aware of that. And I would hope that we would have consensus on that. And that in the matter, that to me, that's the only way that it's fair. So if that's not something trustees wish to do, then we can just move on. So I get the understanding that there is opposition, so we'll just move on, and Trustee Agnew can read her motion. You have the floor. So whoever moves a motion will have 5 minutes to speak to it, and then debate will be 3 minutes. Trustee Agnew, please go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. The reading of the motion doesn't count towards my time, right?
No, it does not count.
I just want to be clear before I start and get interrupted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt. Point of privilege. Do you have a seconder, or do we need that?
I have to read the motion first.
Okay,
Yeah.
pardon me.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you. Your camera's on, Trustee Intomasi. I don't know if you're aware of that. Oh, wait. Thank you. Whereas our schools should be safe spaces for anyone that walks through our doors. And whereas many of our students, parents, and caregivers, staff, and community members identify as LGBTQ+, whereas our strategic plan emphasizes that the well-being for all of our students and staff are met through a focus on equity and inclusion. Whereas raising the pride flag demonstrates this commitment to our students, staff, parents, caregivers, and community members. Whereas Pope Francis has told parents of LGBTQ+ children that God loves your children as they are, and the church loves your children as they are because they are children of God. Whereas Mark 10:13-16 states, people were bringing little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them, but the disciples rebuked them. When Jesus saw this, he was indignant. He said to them, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Truly I tell you, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it." And he took the children in his arms, placed his hands on them, and blessed them. Whereas there is, sorry, can you go back? Whereas there are students and staff within our Halton Catholic District School Board community who identify with the LGBTQ+, and whereas we as a board wish to ensure all the students and staff attending our schools and their families know that we support and are welcoming of all students, staff, and community members, be it resolved that the Director of Education and the Secretary of the Board direct all HCDSB schools, including the Catholic Education Center, to fly the Pride flag during the month of June, starting with 2021, and to work with Student Senate and staff in organizing events throughout the month that focus on equity and inclusion for all. Be it further resolved that each class in each HCDSB school be mandated to have a safe space poster to ensure that students in the 2S LGBTQ community are supported throughout the entire school year.
I'll second the motion.
Thanks, Juliet. Moved by Trustee Agnew, seconded by Trustee Guzzo. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I am not immune to the extreme emotions and differing perspectives on the motion before all of us tonight. And I know that regardless of what I say or how I say it, there will continue to be people who disagree, judge, and condemn me for bringing this motion forward, and any trustees who may support this motion alongside me. My faith, my morals, my motives have all been questioned. So for those who think this is political, popular, or pandering, I can assure you it is none of those things. My sole motivation is about saving lives, student lives, and those lives are worth any of the hatred and bigotry that has been thrown at myself and some of my fellow trustees since this motion first made its way to the public. We cannot forget that we have repeatedly heard that many studies confirm that suicidal ideation and behavior are disproportionately prevalent among 2S LGBTQ+ youth in comparison to their non-2S LGBTQ+ peers. In preparation for tonight's meeting, I read with great interest of the pieces of correspondence that were submitted for inclusion on the board agenda last week and again this week. And I have to say that some of those messages, as hard to read and as disheartened as they were, strengthened my resolve to move this initiative forward. I cannot begin to imagine how our 2S LGBTQ+ students feel living with this kind of hatred and condemnation from their local communities. I've been a witness to incredible initiatives at our board. And I feel so proud of how we have implemented awareness days and months of recognition. Black History Month, Asian Heritage Month, Down syndrome awareness, autism awareness, CP Day, Holocaust awareness, Indigenous awareness, including our beautiful new land acknowledgement video, and the list doesn't end there. We continue to add to this list. And just a few months ago, we unanimously passed a resolution to celebrate International Day of Persons with Disabilities. No hate mail, no angry phone calls, no mean-spirited debate at the table. What is amazing, though, is the support that we have seen come through for this motion, local community organizations, members of the HCDSB community, and political leaders. A petition started by one of our own HCDSB students and which has garnered almost 15,000 signatures. And yes, I recognize that not all of these are HCDSB ratepayers, although many are, but they are allies and they support without question the flying of the flag and the posting of a safe space poster. A few words about the rainbow flag itself, which was established in 1979. The flag assigns a meaning to each color: red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, blue for harmony, and purple for spirit. No evil meanings, no deviant implications, just positive meanings behind each of these colors. LGBTQ individuals and allies currently use rainbow flags and many rainbow-themed items and color schemes as an outward symbol of their identity or support. It is commonly used as a general symbol of social equality and individuality. In the words of Harvey Milk, it's not about personal gain, it's not about ego, it's not about power, it's about giving those young people out there hope. By not raising the flag, this sends a very clear negative message. It says that we just cannot accept 2S LGBTQ people, that we'd rather they stay hidden, that we don't believe that they should be seen. By not raising a flag, we are saying that our public declaration goes against our values, and therefore your existence makes us uncomfortable. It says you may continue to exist, and we suppose we have to acknowledge that in some of our policies and procedures, but that it makes us very uncomfortable. So please do it quietly and in the closet. I would like us all to remember that in being a Catholic, our faith is based on reason and faith. We are called to take in the current knowledge of our times in science, understand of gender, and we are called to listen to our conscience that calls us to love. And love means that we see the inherent dignity of all persons and the need for every student to feel that they are in a safe and supportive learning environment that accepts them for exactly who they are and does not pass judgment on their sexual expression. There was a recurring statement that came in a number of letters that was in all caps. It said, love is not a show. I would argue that love is in fact a show. We show love by supporting others. We show love by making everyone feel accepted and valued. We show love by doing everything in our power to protect our children and our youth from the harms of bullying and the devastation of depression and anxiety that can lead to suicide. I was also struck by a powerful letter that came in our agenda package last meeting. This individual shared a story she found on social media about a teen who was afraid to tell his parents that he was gay. So he decided to tell them in a letter, asking them to leave the porch light on if it was okay for him to come home. He got home a few hours later, and not only was the porch light on, but every light in the house was on. Raising the pride flag in June is just like leaving the porch light on. Let's turn on every single light in our proverbial house so that every student that walks through our school hallways feels welcome, safe, accepted, and loved. We have a chance to be leaders, champions, if you will, of the future, of amazing things to come. Change is hard, it is scary, but don't let fear guide you. Please let's use our collective voices to be the change, to make a difference, to save lives, to show love. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Trustee, so on the speakers list, we have Trustee Ahern-Chernotta, Trustee O'Brien, Trustee Guzzo, then Trustee Kelly. Trustee Ahern-Chernotta, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to put forth a motion to amend on the main motion.
Okay, do we, can you send that to Rosie?
Yeah, just Rosie, give me 1 second, okay?
In the meantime, Mr. Chair, point of privilege, has the motion been seconded?
Actually, it was seconded by Trustee Guzzo.
When, tonight?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
I have sent my amendment to Rosie. I just need confirmation that she's received.
Okay, we'll just give us a few moments to get organized. Oh.
Point of privilege. Oh, never mind.
Okay, Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta, can you walk us through your amendment?
Sure. So I'm going to start. We're going to do this slowly and we're going to do this together as best we can. So if I could ask Rosie to move it down as we go through. This will be a strikeout and replace amendment. So the first three whereas remain the same. So we can reread it. Would you like me to reread it or just go to the strikeout portion of the amendment?
No, just go to the changes that we're addressing.
Okay, it's very visual. So you see the first whereas, where it's stricken out to raise the pride flag demonstrates this commitment to our students, staff, parents, caregivers, and community members. So if we continue down the document, everything else remains the same as the original motion. The next strikeout would be the be it resolved that the Director of Education and the Secretary of the Board direct all HCDSB schools, including the Catholic Education Center, to fly the pride flag during the month of June, starting with 2021, and to work with Student Senate and staff in organizing events throughout the month that focus on equity and inclusion for all. So if we can move down further in the document, thank you so much. Replaced with, be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board create a shared understanding through mandatory training for senior staff, in brackets including superintendents and board level senior managers, chiefs of programming, on the Catholic social teaching on loving and accompanying students who identify as 2SL LGBTQ+, denominational rights and rights of students and staff under the Ontario Human Rights Code by the start of the 2021-2022 school year. This continues. Be it further resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board create shared understanding through mandatory training on the Catholic social teaching on loving and accompanying students who identify as 2SL LGBTQ+, denominational rights and rights of students and staff under the Ontario Human Rights Code in schools with principals and VPs, teachers, chaplains, early childhood educators, educational assistants, special education staff, including social workers, child and youth workers, speech pathologists, special education resource teachers, psychology departments, etc., to be started in September of the 2021-2022 school year. Be it further resolved that Halton Catholic District School Board staff raise awareness around Pride Month, utilizing the guidelines the Institute for Catholic Education, ICE, has provided to each board through the Directors of Education, memo dated May 19, 2020, starting in June 2021. Be it further resolved that, and then I struck out from the original motion, that each school be mandated to post safe space signage to ensure that students in the 2SL LGBT community are supported throughout the entire school year. Be it further resolved that the Director of Education and Secretary of the Board ensure that the mandatory training is to be completed by the 2021-2022 school year, if not sooner, and provide an updated report on the progress to the trustees at the first meeting in January 2022.
Thank you, Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta. There was quite a bit of information there. Do trustees, does anyone need us to run through it again?
I do.
Okay.
And
so maybe we can just. Sorry,
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Trustee O'Brien.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta. What is signage?
You posting things, signage, anything to do with the sign, any kind of visual management would, in my opinion, be considered signage.
So if we can hold those questions for after Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta's speaking to the motion. At this point, I just want to make sure that trustees have a good understanding of what the amendment is, because it's quite a lot of information. So maybe we can just run through it again quickly.
Sorry through you, Mr. Chair. How do you advise? What would you like me to do?
If we could do just a highlight review. If trustees required, if they don't, and everybody's comfortable with it, that's fine. Then we'll ask for a seconder, and then you can open debate. Does anybody need to go through that again?
Privilege. Can you have it sent to us? Like I can see it. I have two computers here, and it's hard to see just sections. If you just send it to us, thank you.
We'll do that. Good idea, Trustee O'Brien. So do we have a seconder for this amendment? Mr. Chair, I'll second. Seconded by Vice Chair Duarte. So we, Trustee O'Hearn Chernota, you have 5
Chair,
minutes to
before we
talk.
begin, I have a point of order.
Sorry, Trustee Anthony, what's your point of order?
The motion as written by Trustee O'Hearn Chernota under consideration contains 2 or more distinct propositions. I move to break the propositions up into parts so they can be dealt with individually. This is very, very, very confusing. You're welcome to ask the parliamentarian whether that's acceptable.
Yes, my understanding, and we'll ask Parliamentarian Kapoor to confirm this, that it's within the rights of any trustee to ask to have distinct parts of a motion dealt with separately. Is that correct, Parliamentarian Kapoor?
It applies more to multiple main motions. I'm looking at the motion to see if it can be. Every part would need to be able to stand alone, and I don't think that is possible at this, the way the motion has been written, that every part could stand alone, because if some are defeated, others cannot stand by themselves.
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm reviewing it and trying to see if I can see how that might work.
Okay, we'll give you some time to a few minutes to review that.
Point of privilege, did you say you were going to send it to us? Because
it just has been sent through.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my advice would be that some could, but not all, and therefore that would make division into each of them separately difficult. Each of them could be, the motion could be considered seriatim, in which you would look at each clause separately, and then at the end would vote on them together. I think seriatim, dealing with them clause by clause, but not actually having a final vote on any one clause, would be the better way to approach this, and that you would take each resolved clause one by one, review it, see if there's any amendment needed to it, and then at the end make a decision on the entire substitute proposal.
So as a clarification, if there's, say, 5 clauses that we're looking at individually, then potentially each one of those could be further amended. And how does that impact our amendment bylaw?
That is exactly correct, Chair. And the amendment bylaw allows, this is considered a primary amendment, so you could do one amendment at a time to each clause. You're not limited to just one possible amendment on each clause, but you can only deal with one at a time on each clause.
But we could then amend 5 clauses, and that would be considered an amendment to the amendment?
Each one of the clauses, each one of those amendments would be an amendment to the amendment.
So when we're dealing with that individually, we would have to then vote on that clause, and then that comes back and becomes the amendment as amended. Is that correct?
No, you would, if I can just talk you through the example, if Rosie could scroll down to the first resolved. That one, thank you. What would happen, Chair, if you deal with it clause by clause, is that you would focus on the first clause there, be it resolved. You would see if there are any amendments to that. Once any amendments were dealt with, you would move on to the first be it further resolved. And see if there's any amendments to the second clause, the be it further resolved that's at the bottom of the screen. You would deal with any amendments to each of them one by one. And then at the end, you would have a vote on the entire motion.
But you could amend one clause once, is that correct?
That is not a limit that I find in your bylaws, Chair.
Okay.
You can amend the first resolved clause, those first 5 lines there. You can make multiple amendments if you do it one at a time, if you find that that's required. Okay. I know there has been an interpretation that you could only do 2 amendments total to a motion. That is, my advice to you previously has been that is not how I read your bylaw.
Okay. So I will accept Trustee Antomasi's point of order, and we will deal with each clause by clause. So
Chair,
we have.
May I clarify something in my
yes.
in my point of order? When I speak of subdivision of questions, we've got 3 distinct parts to her motion, which speak to signage, teaching, and empowering. Those are 3 separate elements, which is what I'm referring to when I talk about a preposition.
Right, so the ruling through Parliamentarian Kapoor is that not all of those can stand on their own, so that is why the suggestion was to deal with clause by clause. Is that correct, Parliamentarian Kapoor?
Yes, Chair, that was my review upon review. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, sorry, and I'm not trying to be difficult. So these are overlapping, be it resolved to the original motion. They do not clarify. They add to the original motion.
Right, and we're discussing within this amendment to deal with them. Your request was to separate them and deal with them individually. Parliamentary Kapoor gave advice. Excuse me, I'm talking. Parliamentarian Kapoor gave advice that there are some that cannot stand alone. Therefore, the solution would be to deal clause by clause.
Exactly, but what I'm saying is, because they are the same as the original motion, then we'd be duplicating, which is why I said to subdivide it into separate items, not clause by clause, because then we'll be repeating the same exercise when we go to the original motion.
Not necessarily if it depends on the final amendment version. So I think Trustee Antomasi, we're spending a lot of time on this. I think we came with an equitable solution to deal clause by clause, and that's how I've ruled. So I'd like to proceed from here. Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta, you have the floor. You have 5 minutes to speak to your amendment.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, and my colleagues at the table. I'm not going to speak as eloquently as Trustee Agnew did. I have very few things about this, but I think they're very important. What this has done has really created sides in our school community, which is very unfortunate, and it saddens me. It's very emotional. It's emotional on everyone's perspective, but it's time to make a change. We cannot continue to keep saying that we're going to do something and nothing changes. So I feel in this amendment that we are making some sort of a movement forward, because I've said it before, and I'll say it anytime someone asks me. If we have one student out of our 37,000 children that feels unsafe in our schools, that's one too many for me. And I will do everything I possibly can to make some sort of change. I ran on the basis of it conciliatory. So we have to put our heads together at this table and figure out a way that we can make a change. People are counting on us, not just because they voted for us, because they have children in the school like I do. So please, I beg of you, let's go through this respectfully and let's make some change. Our kids are counting on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Ahern-Chernotta. So we have a new speakers list for the amendment. On that list, we have Trustee Guzzo, then Vice Chair Duarte.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure. Maybe you may have skipped me. Would you verify that again?
So Trustee DeRosa, when we have an amendment, we start a new list. So you're on the original speakers list on the main motion in order. And then this is a new list. So on this list, I'll run through it. So on this list, we have Trustee Guzzo, Vice Chair Duarte, Trustee O'Brien, Trustee Tomasi, and Trustee DeRosa. Would you like to go on the list?
Okay. Point of privilege, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee O'Brien.
That's clarification. So right now, we are dealing with the first be it resolved that Trustee Ahern-Chernotta put up, correct?
So right now, it's open for debate. Trustees can speak to the motion, or if we are dealing with a clause, we would be dealing with the first clause and then going down in order. So you don't necessarily have to deal with or look at it. You can open debate as you see fit.
Okay, but if we go to a clause, we'll stay on that one till we finish it. That was my understanding.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. So again, we have Trustee Guzzo, Vice Chair Duarte, Trustee O'Brien, Trustee Tomasi, Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make an amendment. I want something added back in, and the amendment would be, if we can scroll back to the part, right there. Be it resolved that the Director of Education and Secretary of the Board fly the, oh, sorry, we lost it there. And Secretary of the Board fly the pride flag at the CEEC starting in the 2021, and then the remainder stays in.
Okay, so as written on the screen, Trustee Guzzo, is that your intention?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we're dealing with a amendment of the amendment. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Mr. Chair,
Seconded by
cannot make an
Trustee
amendment at this particular time.
So we'll refer for an opinion to our parliamentarian, Parliamentarian Kapoor. Is it in order to make an amendment at this time?
My advice to you, Chair, is that yes, this is in order.
Okay, thank you. And we have it seconded. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
A point of order.
Yes, Trustee O'Brien.
Parliamentary opinion on this. The First Amendment was a strike out, and the Second Amendment is a strike in. I like to know, Parliamentary Report, is that in order? So the First Amendment for Trustee Ahern-Chernotta was to strike something out, and the second one is to strike in it. It sounds counterintuitive, Mr. Kapoor. This gets a ruling on it.
Yes, as far as I'm aware, Trustee O'Brien, it is acceptable. We can get an opinion from our parliamentarian.
Yes, Chair. As I said earlier, it's in order. This is a motion to substitute. So what Trustee Ahern-Chernotta has proposed is a motion that if you adopt this substitute would replace the motion that's currently in the agenda package. And motions to substitute a motion, an amendment such as this is in order. It's open to amendment in various forms, including this.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Trustee Ahern-Chernotta did not say substitution. She said strike out and insert. I believe there's a difference. Mr. Kapoor.
Trustee O'Brien, I believe it's the effect, not the actual wording that takes precedent. But again, we can refer to our parliamentarian.
The motion to amend by striking out an entire paragraph, section, or article, or a complete main motion or resolution, and inserting a different paragraph or other unit in its place is called a motion to substitute. So it's not a different type of motion. It's when it's as extensive as this is that it's called a substitute, and this procedure applies.
Mr. Chair, I will appeal that decision for you to let this happen. I don't see that.
Okay, so we will, thank you, Trustee O'Brien. So Trustee O'Brien is appealing the ruling that the amendment, Trustee Agnew's amendment is in order.
I'm appealing that Trustee
Guzzo's.
Sorry,
Guzzo,
yeah, so I have to get that fixed. I keep doing that. Sorry, Trustee O'Brien, did you want to clarify?
My appeal is that the strike in, once you strike out, you can't strike in. It's like baseball.
Okay. So the amendment, the secondary amendment that Trustee Guzzo has put forward is not in order because of it is inserting after being struck out is your appeal, which I ruled against.
Correct.
Okay, so I hope is that clear to everybody? So you're either voting in favor of the appeal, which means that you're agreeing that Trustee Guzzo amendment is not in order, or you're opposed, which means that you're in agreement with the legality or the Trustee Guzzo's amendment being in order. Trustee Roshdi, how do you vote?
Point of privilege, Mr. Chair. Could the parliamentarian cite what he's relying on in RONR?
So point of clarification on that. Parliamentarian Kapoor, do you have a section of Robert's Rules of Order? We can give you some time to find that.
Oh no, I don't need that, Chair. What I stated earlier about the definition of substitute, I was reading section 1269 3B as in Bravo.
Okay, thank you. So we're moving on to a recorded vote for the appeal. Trustee Roshdi, are you in favor of the appeal or opposed?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
Opposed?
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm in favor, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Duarte?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Intomasi?
Favor.
Trustee Carabello? Trustee Carabello? We can come back to Trustee Carabello. Trustee O'Brien?
In favor of the appeal.
Trustee O'Hearn-Chernato?
Opposed.
Trustee Goubert?
I'm in favor, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed.
Trustee Carabello? And check to see if Trustee Carabello is still on the line.
Mr. Chair, I think she's having technical difficulty.
Okay, we'll give her a moment.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, she's there. She's being admitted. She's being admitted. Trustee Carabello?
Oh, sorry, I got kicked out.
You got knocked out. So we're voting on the. Right. Do you know where we are? I'm not sure when you were kicked out.
No.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Okay. So right now we're voting on an appeal. Trustee O'Brien has appealed my decision, which ruled that Trustee Guzzo's amendment, her insert amendment from the strikeout, is in order. Trustee O'Brien's appealed that ruling. So if you vote in favor, you're voting in favor for the appeal, which means that you're voting against the validity of the amendment. How do you vote?
The validity of the
Sorry,
amendment. Janet's
I probably didn't word that properly. Probably didn't help you out. So Trustee Guzzo has an amendment that you see on the screen in front of you. Trustee O'Brien moved a point of order that it is not valid. I ruled against that, stating that it is valid, and he is appealing. So if you vote in favor, you're appealing my decision that is a valid amendment, sorry. Trustee Carabella?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Trustee DeRosa?
it might be worthwhile as a suggestion, just to, because Trustee Carabella joined in after the fact, to go down the roll of the votes.
I can do that for her if she likes. Right now, we don't have contact with her. Did we lose Trustee Carabella again? You can try and get her on the phone.
Mr. Chair, may I have a question? Sorry.
Yes, Trustee Rushdie.
I was wondering if I can switch the voting.
You can switch your vote before it's been closed.
Yeah. Can I switch it to oppose? Because I now that you have further explained it to me, I wanted to switch my my vote.
Okay, no problem. We'll do that.
Point of privilege, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Guzzo.
There seems to be a theme tonight of delaying things. I would ask that you continue on with the vote. This isn't new to us, and I think that I would ask that you call it and finish the vote.
Trustee Guzzo. Sorry,
I also ask that I'm really getting to
order. So I will rule on Trustee Guzzo's point. Trustee Guzzo, it's inappropriate for us to imply intent. If there's technical difficulties, I'm trying to provide some grace and leniency on important matters. Yes, you have a valid point that we cannot wait, obviously, all night, but I think it's incumbent on me to make a fair attempt to make sure that we can get people's votes. So we'll try to connect to Trustee Carabella via the phone, and then if we can't, then we'll move on.
further point of privilege, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Guzzo.
I'm finding it really hard when people continuously talk over you and continuously raise points of order and don't wait to be recognized. It's very difficult. I've been getting messages from ratepayers and stakeholders saying that they're having a difficult time following because people are speaking over you.
Understood. So I'll just remind trustees that while I'm ruling, if you could please wait. You can always raise your point of order, point of privilege once the ruling has been given.
May I be allowed to raise a point of privilege, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you're always allowed to raise a point of privilege, Trustee DeRosa.
I would caution the comments that are being made and recognize that this behavior comes from both sides.
Right. So Trustee DeRosa, if I could interrupt you, I've already ruled on this, so I would try to restrict debate on this matter. It has been dealt with, and if it comes up again at some point, then I will make that same ruling. So, but I do appreciate your comments.
Thank you,
Trustee Carabella is not on the line. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, can I recommend we take a 5-minute recess?
Pardon me, Trustee O'Brien?
I move that we take a 5-minute recess.
We would have to vote on that if trustees would like to take a 5-minute recess. So Trustee Agnew?
Opposed.
Opposed. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Vice Chair Duarte?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Intomasi?
Mr. Chair, Trustee Duarte or Vice Chair
Mr.
Duarte
Chair?
voted in favor.
Mr. Chair?
Sorry. Oh, Trustee Carabell, you there? You were. Trustee Carabella?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Trustee Carabella. Trustee
Mr.
Carabella?
Chair?
Trustee Carabella, yes. Can we call Trustee Carabella on the phone and then have her vote that way?
I will do that, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Hello,
Yes, Vice Chair Duarte.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Trustee Carabella.
Hello? Okay, yes,
Trustee Carabella,
yes, I'm
you're
here.
here? Okay.
Mhm.
How do you vote?
I'm trying, I can't. The microphone looks it's off, but I can't seem to talk.
If you
Or
could,
you
I
can't
can
hear
hear you. If you can hear us, you could type your vote in the chat box if that would work.
Okay, type my vote in the
Chat box.
chat box, okay. Okay, hang on, sorry. Okay. Okay. So you'll have to, okay. In favor of the amendment.
Okay, Trustee Carabella is in favor.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee, so if I could just finish the vote. And Trustee Murphy is opposed, so
Mr. Chair.
the appeal
Mr. Chair,
carries.
I reconsider my vote.
Oh, so you're Trustee Vice Chair Duarte? You're going to opposed, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. We have 4 in favor, so the appeal fails. So right now, if I can
Hello,
recap.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Carabella. So right now, the appeal has failed. So we are dealing with Trustee Guzzo's amendment. And Trustee, we have a seconder. Trustee Guzzo, you have 5 minutes to speak to the matter.
Sorry, just give me just 1 second.
Can anyone hear me?
We can all hear.
Yes, we can hear you, Trustee Carabella.
Okay, sorry, I just have to grab my my note here. We're having cell phone connectivity issues over here, so I apologize. Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Chair. My apologies.
No problem. Please proceed. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Our children are entrusted to this board to look after them, to care for them, to nurture them, keep them safe. How can we say that we create a safe place for our students when they are telling us that it is not? How do we ignore the statistics of mental health, suicide rates, and our student voices? If we can make a difference for these students, the question is, why not? We teach our children social justice, service to those in need, to love because we are all wonderfully made. It is in our power to continue on a journey with our students. That means doing what we can to ensure that they feel like they belong, so that they can achieve, and because ultimately we support them and love them. Who are we to judge and condemn anyone? That is not what we have been taught, nor is that what we are teaching our students. The Bible was not written to cause harm or to be used to cause harm, yet it is, and it has been. We all have work to do and a long way to come to support all of our students. And to me, this is one step in the right direction to show love, as the rainbow so wonderfully symbolizes. Red is for life, orange is for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, blue for harmony. Let's see that flag raised high to show what this community stands for and that we as Catholics represent. Love, not hatred. Acceptance, not rejection. All creations created by God. I am an ally. What is an ally? Always center the impacted. Listen and learn from those who live in the oppression. Leverage your privilege. Yield the floor. As an activist says, tell me what you need. I don't know what to do or what to say, but I am here, at the ready, willing, no criticism, no judgment. If you tell me to do nothing, I will do nothing. If you tell me to speak, I will lift my voice even if the wrong things come out. No more will I be idle. No more will I watch you suffer. I am with you, here to listen, here to fight, here to shoulder and make up for battles I have missed. I may be late, but that won't happen again. Standing, holding, bleeding, mobilizing, unpacking my own biases, my own privilege, full time. I will learn, unlearn, disrupt systems of power. If you have me or not, I am doing the work. And I support the raising of the rainbow flag for the month of June at the Catholic Education Center and take the steps forward to support all of our students and make our schools a safe place that we all want it to be. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. So we have a new speakers list. On that list, we have Trustee Kelly, Trustee Agnew, Trustee Carabella, Trustee O'Brien. I'll remind trustees that you have 3 minutes for your debate. Trustee Kelly, sorry, did I hear a point of?
A point of privilege. Can
Yes,
anyone
Trustee
hear me?
Carabella.
Because I don't hear anything.
We can hear you, yes. Somebody could type that in the chat box that we can hear, Trustee Carabella. Trustee DeRosa, I see you have added you to the speakers list. Trustee Kelly? Trustee Kelly, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I don't have a question, but just some perspective about this amendment. I thank Trustee Guzzo for re-adding this flying the flag, even if it's just at the CUIC, because to fly the flag, to set up safe space posters, and to train staff can create a safer community for the 2S LGBTQ+ members. This motion is representative of our maxim to achieve, believe, and belong. This motion can be the push that students need to be successful in their educational environment. According to the Government of Ontario's document, promoting a positive school climate, students are more motivated to do well and to realize their full potential in schools if they have a positive school environment where they feel safe, included, and supported. To fly the flag, to set up space posters is just to create such a community. Catholic associations such as the Diocese of Hamilton, headed by Bishop Douglas Crosby, have shown support for this very motion tonight. Catholic partners of the diocese have helped to prepare such a document listing reasons to support this motion. One of the most notable points is while individual bishops hold a range of personal perspectives on the matter, collectively they do understand the need for boards to communicate their commitment to ensuring safe and welcoming communities. No matter what one's personal stances are, you should support all members of the Catholic community. However, the organizational support does not stop at the diocese. Associations that have shown their support include the Positive Space Network from the Reach Out Center of Kids, the Rainbow Collective of Thunder Bay, and the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association, which also flies their own flag at their offices. Not to mention a petition that I started about 2 weeks ago, which has gained over 15,390 signatures. Are we going to let all of these supporters and advocate down this evening? As it stands now, many members in our community feel invisible or don't feel supported. Currently, 10 of 29 English language Catholic boards recognize Pride Month, and only a few of these boards fly the Pride flag during the month of June. This lack of visibility and lack of acknowledgement only makes the 2S LGBTQ+ community question where they belong in their Catholic community. This must be fixed. Since my mother brought me into this world, I have lived my life as a devout Catholic. In my day-to-day life, I try my best to live as our Savior has taught us, with love, acceptance, and divine compassion. Yet many of us use our God's name in vain. They justify their bigotry and hide behind the Bible, when the Bible is but a message of love, a message of acceptance. Today, I speak as an advocate, I speak as a student leader, and I speak as a member of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. Does this make me lesser part of our Catholic community? As a devout Catholic, I have learned to love myself and my identity through God's message of love and hope, a message more powerful than any hatred or bigotry. To support this motion is to act in the way that Jesus has preached from his birth in Bethlehem, his life in Jerusalem, and until his divine death and resurrection in Golgotha. That love and compassion is stronger and above all else. Jesus was a unifying force who has preached about love and equity, and Pride Month is just that. Our community members have united tonight and called on us to support the 2S LGBTQ+ members in the community. I ask of all of you, what will our response be? Will it be one of justice and equity as our Lord taught us? Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. Up next, we have Trustee Agnew. Please proceed.
Can I go back in the queue, Mr. Chair?
Yes, so next we have Trustee Carabella.
That's fine. I had my hand up from trying to get into the meeting. Thank you.
My apologies. Trustee O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make an amendment to this amendment.
I don't believe that is in order, but we can get our opinion from Parliamentarian Kapoor. This is our secondary amendment already.
Okay.
Parliamentarian Kapoor?
You are correct, Chair. This is already a secondary amendment and tertiary amendments are not allowed.
Thank you. Trustee, did you have a comment, Trustee O'Brien?
Yes, question to, thank you, Trustee Guzzo. So Trustee Guzzo, Trustee Herzog struck out this entire be it resolved. You put back in only the CEC. Why would you put only the CEC? If you believe that strongly, as you say, I'm just confused. I'm wondering why.
Sorry, Trustee O'Brien, we can't ask individual intent.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, could you, I'm just wondering why we want to fly it on we took it off every school because of the CEC. And we're putting it back on the CEC. It just seems to me flying it or not flying it. So I'm really confused about this. That's my comment. Thank you.
Is that a question, the rationale for flying at the CEC, or is it just a comment?
It's just a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So up next we have Trustee DeRosa.
Chair, I'd be happy to answer the question.
No answer needed.
Order. I thank you for your support, but I'm more than capable to respond. Trustee Agnew, it wasn't a question, it was just a comment, so it doesn't require any answer. Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to first ask, I have the intent of submitting an amendment to the motion, which I hope will make clear all of these amendments. When is the opportune time that I can make that? Can I do that now, sir?
Trustee DeRosa, so the time when you would be able to move an amendment is when we're back at the main motion. And again, we can ask Parliamentarian Kapoor to verify his opinion.
If it's an amendment to Trustee O'Hearn Sarnota's substitute, then it would need to wait at least till after this amendment is finished. If otherwise, it would need to wait till after this amendment is completed. The one on the screen.
So when we're back to the primary amendment or Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta's amendment. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Does that answer your question, Trustee DeRosa?
I believe it does. So as we make our way back to Trustee Zarnota's amendment to the original motion, that would be the time for giving me the opportunity to make an amendment.
Correct. When you have the floor, so we have a speakers list of Vice Chair Duarte, O'Brien, and Tomasi, and then yourself.
So,
did you want to speak to this amendment that's in front of us?
Actually not, Mr. Chair. I just want to make it known that I intend to submit an amendment, and if the time is to do it.
Point of privilege, Mr. Chair, this is not relevant at this particular time. He's talking about something that's happening.
You're correct. You're
Thank you
correct,
very much.
Trustee Antomasi. I accept your point of order. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for your patience. I just wanted to, it's no secret that I'm fully in support, obviously, of flying the flag. I support this amendment. It is not ideal. Ideally, we'd like to see the flag, or I'd like to see the flag at all of the schools and the CEC, but I do believe that this is a great starting point. I do believe that this is a great outward opportunity for us to show our support for the 2S LGBTQ community. And I think by flying the flag at the CEC, again, it's just a start. It shows that we are a safe and accepting and a place of belonging. And I think it would just be a good beginning. We know that Thunder Bay is doing this at their CEC, and we actually got word that the Waterloo Catholic Board will be flying the flag at their schools as well. So I'm in full support of this amendment.
Thank you. Do we have any other trustees who would like to speak to this matter? If not, we go to Trustee.
I do. I've had my hand up, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah, I can't. If you're not in the chat box, I can't see it. Trustee Antomasi, but please proceed. You have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to commend Student Trustee Kelly for her passionate plea to the board. I come at this in a totally different way. Until we as a board create and implement a flag raising policy and operating procedures to recognize and celebrate the diversity that is reflected in all our students, staff, and community throughout Halton. My comment is independent of the recognition of the delegations, the unconditional support we all wish to give our students. Notwithstanding the many emails that HCDSB trustees have received, we are beholding to a Halton Catholic ratepayer and them alone. It should be noted that we have chaplains in each of our secondary schools, where safe spaces and ongoing support is already supplied. In adhering with the provincial sexual education guidelines, we have a curriculum vetted through Catholic lens via our bishops that already supports our elementary grades. As trustees, we are required under the Education Act to be equitable and inclusive. However, we have no policy that has an operating procedure to outline the types of recognitions available, criteria or application of process, or develop roles and responsibilities for staff. As this motion reads, does not meet a requirement under the Education Act. It will leave the board in a position to be challenged by other groups or initiatives who are entitled to equal treatment. We have no comprehensive guiding calendar that addresses protocols for the spectrum of the groups in our board. For example, there are established days of observance nationally and provincially, which are to be recognized. The month of June already marks National Aboriginal History Month, and it includes a day of recognitions for victims of terrorism, plus Multiculturalism Day. To be inclusive and equitable, we must ensure that all groups have an opportunity to be able to access the same type of public recognition within our board. Let us remember that the curricular staff already have programming established each year for every planned initiative, and we have not been advised how creating additional material integrated with the proper appropriate dialogue or how these costs will be met. The board needs a clearly defined criteria under which to operate. With all due respect to the mover and the seconder of this motion, as well intended as they may be, it's premature to move forward as we do not have a proper policy to support the structures in place. Should another group wish to have a flag flowing for a day, a week, a month of June, or any month, we have no reference by which to make decisions. The national flag is an unmistakable symbol of unity and inclusiveness for all Canadians. I believe in upholding the dignity of the Canadian flag, which means as per national flag etiquette, it must be flown on its own, thereby creating the need for separate flagpole installations to fly additional flags. From a logistical point of view, we have not had sufficient time to allow staff, trustees a fulsome report of system stakeholder feedback as we do all new policies, costing the installation of flagpoles and flags, and or how funds can be raised by adjusting our budget or working with school communities to raise funds. Mr. Chair, for that reason I've stated I move to postpone this matter until staff provides us with a comprehensive report. We are in no position to deal with this matter this evening. Thank you.
Sorry, Trustee Antomasi, you're moving a motion to postpone?
Yes.
Parliamentarian Kapoor, do we need a seconder for that?
Yes, a motion to postpone requires a seconder. I'm not sure I heard the parameters of when this would be postponed until.
Trustee Antomasi, can you state it was reflecting on some actions that staff need to take? Can you reiterate those?
I can do that. Was I muted?
No, it was just for clarity.
So I would move it indefinitely and or to a date where staff can provide the necessary documentation and the proper planning.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Yeah,
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, a motion to postpone indefinitely is not in order at this time. A motion to postpone until certain conditions are met is in order at this time.
I agree.
Thank you. So can we clarify those conditions, Trustee Antomasi?
That would have to be asked of staff. So I would ask Secretary Daly to provide a timetable when this is feasible to have all the matters that I discussed in my remarks in place.
Can I get a parliamentary opinion? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So it is not in order now. When can Trustee Antomasi make this motion? So Trustee O'Brien, to postpone indefinitely is not in order, but to postpone to a specific date or once a specific action is achieved, and Parliamentarian Kapoor can confirm that. When can he postpone indefinitely? That's my question.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. Parliamentary Kapoor?
A postpone indefinitely is only in order if there is no other subsidiary motion, such as any motion to amend.
So just for clarification,
Mr. Chair,
when he gets back to the main motion, then he can do that. When we get back to the main motion, that is when a person can postpone indefinitely. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Kapoor?
Through you, Mr. Chair, hypothetical, it's usually not a good, it's not in order to answer hypothetical questions. At this moment, a motion to postpone indefinitely is out of order. A motion to postpone definitely is in order.
Thank you.
Okay. So to clarify, do you have a date, Trustee Antomasi?
I do believe that I can postpone to a later time. I don't have to have a date because it's subject to staff being able to provide the information I requested.
So can we clarify what that information is? Just to make it easier for people voting?
That a policy be put in place, number one. The cost to fulfill whatever requirements that are asked for in the motion.
So, sorry, just to clarify.
I use the word costed.
A policy regarding flags flown at Halton Catholic District School Board properties. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
A secondary pole.
Okay, so cost estimates.
A policy that deals with if you have competing groups asking for the same month, who has precedence, there's got to be some sort of mechanism in place to be able to administer any request from any group. We have to be equitable.
And is that that's the extent? So Parliamentarian Kapoor, is it in order to postpone postpone the motion until a policy for flying flags on our properties, a costing estimate, and a policy regarding order of flying the flags? Would that then be in order?
Under Roberts, it would be. Under your bylaw 1015, it refers only to a motion to postpone to a certain time or day. So it's up to you, Chair, whether that is a certain time or day is certain enough.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So 10.9, recognition of motion. You can't recognize a motion and then not allow it. Our bylaws are contradictory.
So Trustee Antomasi, if you put September 1st on this motion to postpone, then it would meet the requirements and it would be in order. Is that correct, Parliamentarian Kapoor?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. So Trustee Antomasi, are you comfortable with that?
I'm only comfortable with that if the Secretary to the Board can assure me that all of this can be in place.
Secretary Daly, can you comment on whether September 1st is reasonable or not? And if you require an extended date, could you offer that?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Because it would have to go to the policy committee, I think I would have to defer to the chair of the policy committee as in terms of timelines around costing. We could do that relatively quickly. If we're talking about the amendment where we're looking at an additional poll just at the CEC.
Okay.
Chair, it's the parliamentarian. I have to apologize to you.
No problem.
A postponement beyond the date of which this motion would be effective is not in order. I apologize. The motion that we're dealing with talks about June, starting in June 2021. So a postponement beyond the end of June or would be out of order. I apologize for my oversight.
Right, that's a good point. We've handled that before. Therefore, unfortunately, Trustee Antomasi, the motion to postpone, as indicated here, would be not in order.
Mr. Chair, all due respect to Parliamentarian Kapoor, 10.9 recognizes that you can postpone to a later time. It doesn't matter what it says in the back of that because it's not defined. So we need to turn to our ONR, which allows me to postpone. We can't proceed with something that's not feasible. We're not being equitable. The very thing we're trying to do this evening is to be equitable to the LGBTQ. We're imposing to another group that they can't do it. So you need to have some sort of structure to be able to provide this to this group. We would be inequitable doing it any other way.
Understood, Trustee Antomasi, but you're speaking to content of the motion. The technicality is that if we postpone to a later date, then once those conditions are satisfied, it makes the amendment null and void. So that's why I have to rule against it, and my ruling stands. So we are back to the amendment, the secondary amendment, as you see it on the screen. We have no other trustees who would like to speak to the matter, so we'll move to a recorded vote. Trustee Agnew?
Sorry, point of order, Mr. Chair. I think I get to close.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just was getting so excited to get to the vote. Sorry. Please proceed.
I'll make it short, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify that this is not what the intent of this motion was, and this is not really where we want it to be. We want to see that flag flown in every school. We want to see that every community member, every child, every parent, every sister, mother, father, brother, aunt, uncle, whether you are identify with anything, we want everybody to know that you are welcome in our schools and that we accept and love everybody as they are, as God made them. That is really what I wanted. But as I can see the temperature of the board, and that's not the will. So compromise is always part of it. And the compromise at this table is to have it at least start at the CEC. And it'll start at the CEC, but this is not over. This will not go away. We will continue to have to grow and learn and nurture and take care of our children and our students and our brothers and our sisters, because that's what we're supposed to do. Is we're supposed to be here for our students and to show them that we love them and show them that we support them so that they can truly reach their full potentials, because that is what we are doing. They're in our care, and that's what we need to make sure. So I implore all of my fellow trustees to do the right thing for our students, not for our own personal agendas, but for our students and for what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. So we'll move to recorded vote. Trustee Agnew?
I'm in favor of the amendment.
Trustee DeRosa?
Mr. Chair, I'm not that quick on my microphone. Would you come back to me, please?
Yes, and if I skip you, please remind me. Vice Chair Duarte?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Antomasi?
Against.
Trustee Carabella? Trustee Carabella? Do we see Trustee Carabella on the list? No. Can we call Trustee Carabella? We'll move on to the next. So I'll put a star to come back. Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata?
Troy?
I'm in favor.
We're at the vote again. It's coming up to me. It's about keeping.
Trustee Carabella? Trustee Carabella?
Privilege. Helen, you're on, not on mute.
Trustee Carabella? Trustee Carabella? So we'll move to back to Trustee DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to step away. I'm opposed, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Carabella? Oh, sorry. Let me go to the student trustees. Trustee Goubert?
Opposed, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Roshdi?
In favor, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Carabella? Trustee Carabella? Can we call Trustee Carabella on the phone and maybe just keep her on the phone? Trustee Carabella. One more minute.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Trustee DeRosa?
Again, in the interest of effectiveness and efficiency, we could either call for a recess to give Trustee Carabella the time to fix her issues, or we need to consider that she is present and she needs to vote. So I don't know how we handle that.
So Trustee,
I'll leave it to your good judgment.
Trustee DeRosa, if you'd like to call a 5-minute recess, we can do that. We just have to go to recorded vote. Would you like to call a recess?
Yes, I would.
We're okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Agnew.
It's Trustee Guzzo.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I don't believe, can we call and make another motion for recess in the middle of a vote?
That's a good point. I'll defer to Parliamentarian Kapoor.
No, you cannot.
Thank you. We'll defer to Parliamentary Kapoor.
Yeah, I'm not sure who was my ventriloquism target there, but you're in the middle of a vote. You need to complete that vote before you interrupt things.
Okay. So we've tried to reach Trustee Carabella by phone and by text, and she's having connectivity problems, so we'll have to move on. And so Trustee Murphy votes against, so the amendment fails.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could you provide the total votes for us? She
Yes.
has to be allowed to vote. So everybody has the right to vote, and we need to wait. You cannot move on.
Right. So Trustee Antomasi, we cannot hold the business of the board indefinitely. We've tried and made every prudent attempt to get a hold of Trustee Carabella by phoning, texting, and seeing if she was connecting on the chat box. So I think that is, we've made a reasonable attempt. It's unfortunate that she has connectivity issues, but we'll have to move on.
No, I'm sorry, you can't. The Education Act requires
so
that we all vote.
Trustee Antomasi, the chair's ruling is final unless Trustee Antomasi order. I'm speaking. The chair's ruling is final except for appeal. If you would like to appeal my ruling, then we can take that to a vote.
No, I'm asking you to tell me what part of the act or the bylaws or our ONR you're using to make your decision. I'm entitled to that.
I'm using common sense. So Trustee Parliamentarian Kapoor, if you have something to add, please provide your opinion.
I don't actually, Chair. Your ruling is sounds very reasonable to me, but I do not have any other particular reference at hand.
Okay, thank you. The business of the board has to move on regardless of technology problems. It's unfortunate, but we have to move on. So we're now going back to the primary amendment of Trustee O'Hearn-Chernota on the speakers list. So we'll go back to our speakers list. We have.
So, I didn't vote on that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
My apologies. How do you vote?
I'm opposed. So, and I need to know the tally, please.
So the tally is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed, 3 in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we're now moving back to the primary amendment, which was Trustee O'Hearn-Chernota moved. On the speakers list, we have Vice Chair Duarte, Trustee O'Brien, Trustee Antomasi, and Trustee DeRosa. Vice Chair Duarte, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to make a statement. Milton is a very diverse community like no others in our region. Our school comprises of members from the Asian, the Spanish, the Filipino, the Coptic Christians, and non-Catholic communities.
Mr. Chair, point of privilege. I apologize to Trustee Duarte, but the echo is overwhelming, and I can only make up 50% of what he's saying. So
okay,
I don't know how we fix that.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if Vice Chair Duarte had his microphone on or not.
Mr. Chair, I shall continue. I have done my due diligence and have the wonderful opportunity to talk to experienced teachers at HCDSB as well as other boards, past trustees, parents, school council chairs, at least 5 clergy as well as non-Catholic HCDSB parents to help me learn and understand more about how they view this motion. I have read numerous emails from residents in Halton region, both for and opposed to the motion. I have picked up phone calls from residents in Milton and Halton, all over Halton, and had some great conversation, and mostly they were respectful. Over the past weeks, I have received feedback from HCDSB parents from Milton, which I have verified from very diverse background, who have commented on the motion on the floor, and emails have been sent to him. Many have spoken to me on phone and did not want to write emails as they were concerned about repercussions. So I did receive a lot of emails from Milton, and the majority of them were in favor of the motion. No, majority were opposed, and very few were in favor of the motion, and some were indifferent to the motion altogether. So it is very evident that the original motion as presented has kind of set up deeply divided our school communities, my parents and families, and I'm concerned that there will be no winners at the end of it. But the common theme of all the feedback that I received is that we need to make our schools a safe, accepting, inclusive, and welcoming environment for all students and staff, and that is my mandate as a trustee. Another common thing from feedback is that HCDSB is an educational institution which needs to be inclusive, welcoming, and we need to keep our focus on that. So, Mr. Chair, so after doing my due diligence and considering all the feedback I have received, I would like to see each and every student and staff be included, kept safe, treated equitably, be respected, and welcomed in HCDSB. I would also like to see some concrete and tangible actions taken towards achieving this goal, which is reflected in this amendment. I'm confident that this amendment will lead us to the right path for each and every one of our students and parents. And so, Mr. Chair, I will vote in support of this amendment. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duarte. Up next, we have Trustee O'Brien. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. I will cede my position to get back in line. I just want to rephrase my questions.
Thank you. So I'll put you in line after Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Antomasi, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair. I would like to begin by expressing my appreciation to all of HCDSB stakeholders for their participation and well-written emails rooted in knowledge and insights in this matter. Judging by the thoughtful dialogue, it speaks volume as to why Catholic education matters. The social doctrine of the Catholic Church dictates that the community participation is a duty to be fulfilled by all, with a responsibility in the view of to the common good, social justice. The national flag is an unmistakable symbol of unity and inclusiveness for all Canadians, no matter their sexual orientation, race, or color. I believe in upholding the dignity of the Canadian flag, which means it must always be flown on its own, and it's improper to fly 2 or more flags on the same pole. I believe that as Catholics, we worship publicly and live our lives privately. As a Catholic board, we have the same obligations and duties, rights and privileges under the Education Act as do public school boards, with one notable exception. Most uniquely, we hold the nominational rights which our forefathers persevered to retain. And as a result of their tenacity, we are uniquely gifted in Section 29 of the Charter of Rights, giving us as Catholic school boards the ability to create a faith-based community where religious instruction, religious practice, value formation, and faith development are integral to and woven through every area of our curriculum. And Catholic school boards, the school, the home, the church work together to develop within our students to create a Catholic lens in the formation of the whole child, the whole person. All of our schools and classrooms display the most powerful and recognizable symbol of Christianity, the cross, which is the fundamental underpinning of our faith and represents unconditional welcome to all, especially the most vulnerable. HCDSB follows and promotes its curriculum developed by our bishops by infusing the Catholic gospel, which has endured the test of time and has been unwavering in its teachings of acceptance and support to the least of our brothers and sisters. Catholic schools have safe places with guidance from chaplains who are trained in providing the necessary support to those in need. Just as it is the role of the church to create and interpret the gospel, its teachings, it's the role of Catholic school board trustees under the Education Act to create policies that ensure support and guidance to develop each school as a Catholic Christian community in all its academic and non-academic activities. Our pledge as protectors of the gift of Catholic education makes us responsible for providing support to teachers, principals, vice principals, supervisory officers, and other staff members who are committed to building the school system as a Catholic Christian community whose role daily is to prepare and put into use the academic curricula as developed by our clergy. This significant work is centered on supporting all students with equity and inclusion. In closing, let us remember that our Catholic community is and always shall be a family in solidarity with the Pope, cardinals, bishops, priests, and sisters whose ministry makes Christ present to us in the Eucharist. Please keep in your prayers the preservation for this blessing of publicly funded Catholic education. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Tomasi. Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to propose an amendment to Trustee Zarnortza's amendment to the motion.
Do you have, is it something that you can talk us through relatively easy, or do you have it written that we can?
I've actually sent it to Rosie. I sent it to Rosie a while back. So if Rosie can put it up, I'm happy to.
I just want to point out that in 3 minutes we'll have to vote, so I don't want to interrupt you in the middle of something, but let's just keep an eye on the clock, and at 10 o'clock we'll call the vote.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair, the fact that I have started speaking, if the vote goes not to extend, I still get an opportunity to finish.
It's an action item. We have to finish item 4.2. Yes, so.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much. So that clears me out. So, Mr. Chair, first of all, I would like to present a motion to strike and insert. So I'm striking out the whole motion and inserting it with what I'm going to read. So, whereas the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Indigenous Month, and Pride Month are all celebrated in June, and the Board of Trustees recognizes and welcomes students belonging to the LGBTQ plus community and all other minority groups. Whereas the bishops understand the need for boards to take a positive and proactive approach to expressing their commitment to equitable, safe, and inclusive school communities. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees directs the Secretary of the Board and the Director of Education to undertake a complete review of all equity and inclusion programs currently in place at the HCDSB to ensure that ministry guidelines are met and to improve such measures as required to meet HCDSB's specific needs, and mandate all staff to take equity and inclusion training to support all minority groups. Can you scroll down, Rosie, please? Thank you. Be it further resolved that due to time constraints, HCDSB adopt and fly for June 2021 the colored flag attached, already suggested by the Ontario Catholic Educators, to represent equity, inclusion, and diversity with the Catholic lens until the specific flag unique to HCDSB can be developed. If you scroll down is the flag I'm presenting in this motion.
Oh my God.
I would appreciate a seconder. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
So one moment, please. So it's at 10 o'clock. We have to vote to extend, and then we can deal with what's on the table. Can I have a mover to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock?
I will move.
Trustee Guzzo.
Moved by Trustee Guzzo, seconded by Trustee DeRosa. We'll go to a recorded vote. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Vice Chair Dewar?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Antomasi? Opposed. Opposed. Trustee Carabella, is she with us?
Yes, opposed.
Opposed. Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Chernata?
In favor.
Trustee Goubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Roshdi?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee Murphy is in favor, so we're extended past 10 o'clock to 10:30. So I have to ask Parliamentarian Kapoor, since Trustee O'Hearn-Chernata's amendment is a substitution, is it in order to have a substitution of that substituted amendment?
Yes, Chair, my advice is that Roberts clearly says that that is allowed.
Okay. Mr.
Chair, I would make a distinction.
So, Trustee DeRosa, please, I'm trying to work at the mechanics of this, and then you're more than welcome to ask your question.
Thank you.
For clarity for the trustees, we are only looking at Trustee DeRosa's amendment, which is in front of us, and then after debate, we would vote on that, and if that passes, that becomes the primary amendment. Or does that then go back? Well, I guess that question is that becomes the primary amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair. This is currently your secondary amendment.
Okay, thank you. So we need a seconder. Can I get a seconder? And then Trustee DeRosa, you can ask your question, unless it pertains to what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee O'Brien. Trustee DeRosa, did you have a question before you wanted to start your debate?
Yes, I wanted to make absolutely clear that this is a motion to strike and insert as opposed to a motion to substitute. There is a distinct difference, and I need to clarify that even for the purpose of my fellow trustees, as well as for the purpose of Parliamentarian Kapoor.
Okay, so we can, Parliamentarian Kapoor, can you give us an opinion on, I guess, the status of this amendment?
Thank you, Chair. As I understood the motion as read, it was to strike the entirety of Trustee O'Hearn-Zarnota's amendment and replace it with this motion that was just read. The terms are synonymous, and therefore I apologize if I've introduced arcane terminology and confused matters. But if the intent is that this would replace Trustee O'Hearn-Zarnota's motion in its entirety, then it is in order as a secondary amendment.
Okay, thank you. So Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor. You have 5 minutes to speak to your amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Can we please get this sent to us? I mean, it's another, we don't.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, we'll do that. Thank you. Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good evening, everyone, especially all the parents, ratepayers, and students who've reached out to me personally on both sides of this decision that we face tonight. A decision, frankly, that is untimely, given our common struggle with the COVID and knowing that it will divide our family, our Catholic family, again, along unreconcilable lines that have existed for centuries. Of most importance to me, though, is the expectations that have been created over the last few weeks in the young minds of our most vulnerable students and possible consequences that may follow if tonight's results disappoint them. Mr. Chair, as I struggle to find a middle ground in my heart, and I have answered every incoming call and have personally reached out to parents of LGBTQ students and teachers who work with them every day so that I could hear their human experience and their appeal. I have heard from the silent majority who told me they are reluctant to speak out because of fear of repercussions, whether amongst their friends or at work. As a result, my apologies. And as a result, have not had a voice in this matter. We have at least an obligation to poll that community adequately. As someone who is predisposed to look for a middle ground in difficult situations like this one, I've encountered comments such as, quote, "You are either with us or not." History has demonstrated from time to time that with this type of attitude, when it starts to take root in democracy, it is usually a precursor to terrible human strife. It is demoralizing and terrifying to hear these words in this day and age. Bullies, Mr. Chair, are not only in the schoolyard giving bloody noses. We as trustees, parents, educators, and clergy are partners and responsible stewards of our children's education. We must protect them while we give them the tools and resilience to advocate for themselves so that when they leave the safety of our schools, they are prepared to stand on their own 2 feet. Symbolic gestures with no significant follow-through leave the impression that the bullying problem will stop if we fly only a flag. It will not. Although well-intended, this motion offers no long-term plan to protect our LGBTQ plus students and other minorities. What will happen when these students leave the safety of our schools? Have we done everything we could to give them the resilience to stand up for themselves? We must think long-term if we really care. On the issue of Catholicity, as trustees, we are sworn to protect a publicly funded Catholic education. We need to stop feeding the narrative for those individuals who seek every opportunity to defund Catholic education by questioning the value of a well-established, moral-based education system in Ontario. And I would add the only education is morally based education in Ontario. We exist because we have proven ourselves for 150 years and will endure because parents want what we have to offer. As evidence, not only by members of our Catholic family who register, but also by those who are non-Catholics who see the value in moral teachings. I worry, Mr. Chair, that there is political advantage to be gained from this specific discourse at a time when elections are looming and seeing the campaign-style activation that has taken place on social media and other places in recent weeks. Regardless, I am hopeful, as usual, that some common sense and reconciliation will prevail tonight. Most of all, I want to reach out to our students and give them my personal assurance that I will see that they are validated and included in their schools, and to do everything within my power that the board can do to make sure that they will be. To that end, I am putting forward this motion that may fall short of the expectations that have been created in our young minds, but will serve as a genuine first step to their inclusion as an equitable and vital part of our Catholic school community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. So on the speakers list, we have Trustee Agnew and then Trustee O'Brien. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a comment with respect to Trustee DeRosa's motion. I think, first of all, with respect to some ideas that have been put into young minds over the last few weeks, I would comment that we actually, I would comment that a lot of students have actually been excited and hopeful for the idea that we might look at flying the pride flag. And I understand that there may be some disappointment that will come with that, but I truly believe that they understand now that they do have allies and that they do have people that love them and support them and are willing to accept them just the way that they are. And so while, yes, this may have set them up for some disappointment if this didn't go the way that we were hoping, I still feel extremely grateful that they know that there are people who are trying to represent their wants and their needs and to allow them to feel welcomed and belong. Just a comment about the flag that had been posted here. I would caution trustees, if you're going to fly a flag, I won't speak to the Sacred Heart of Jesus flag, that's very specific, the Indigenous specific. If you're going to fly any type of flag to recognize Pride Month, you need to fly the Pride flag. There was an alternative flag that was flown last year in Waterloo, and it was not accepted by the 2S LGBTQ plus community or by the other members of the school community. So if you're going to recognize Pride, do it the right way. We wouldn't fly a different Sacred Heart of Jesus flag. We wouldn't fly a different a flag for any other recognition. So if you're going to recognize Pride, you need to fly the Pride flag. If that is part of your motion here, it should not be an alternative flag, and it should not be anything but the Pride flag. Thank you.
May I respond, Mr. Chair?
Trustee DeRosa, those were just comments. There weren't any questions to you. So you will have an opportunity to wrap up at the end, of course, unless I forget, you can remind me. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor, then Trustee Guzzo.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a friendly amendment, please.
So you want to make an amendment. This is a secondary. So I'll get Parliamentarian Kapoor to confirm, but we are able to amend the secondary amendment at this time. Is that correct?
Not according to Roberts, Chair. Your secondary amendment cannot be further amended. If there's unanimous consent, you could, but otherwise, no.
You're right. I had forgotten that this is actually the secondary to Trustee O'Hearn-Tornado's. So as Parliamentarian Kapoor had mentioned, if there is consensus, then we can change that, correct?
Mr. Chair, if that's okay. But do you need to hear it first?
Yes, yeah. So we need to get consensus. So everybody needs to hear what your proposal is, and then we can ask for consensus.
Piggyback on what Trustee Agnew said, I agree. You can't just fly a whole new different flag. Either you're flying the Pride flag or you're not. So my friendly amendment would be to completely strike out the second "be it further resolved."
So do we have? So let's first look at that statement just so we're on the right page. So we just went by. It's the ice, right? Okay. So this, Trustee O'Brien, your proposal is that we strike out this "be it further resolved"? Correct. Okay. Do we have any, so we're asking for consensus. Do we have any opposition to that? And if there is opposition, then we cannot amend. Do we have consensus? Is there any opposition to removing?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee DeRosa?
Just a point of clarification. Do we need 100% consensus to make this change, or what's?
That's my understanding, but I can ask Parliamentarian Kapoor to confirm. Is it unanimous or is it simple majority?
Well, actually, the more I think about it, there are two ways to do it, Chair. One, you could do it by unanimous consent, that is, if no one objects. If there's an objection, I suppose you could do it by a motion to suspend the rules. That would require a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please, Trustee DeRosa.
I need to know what the amendment is going to be before I vote on this thing, and I would suggest that my fellow trustees would be facing the same dilemma.
So what Trustee O'Brien is proposing, that the "be it further resolved" paragraph that you see that is now struck out would be removed from your amendment. That's what he's proposing. So if we have...
If you take that to a vote, I'm opposed.
Okay, so because you're opposed, we don't have consensus. So then it would have to, Trustee O'Brien would have to move to suspend the rules, and we would need 2/3 majority to have that struck out. Is that correct, Parliamentarian Kapoor?
Yes, Chair, it would require a second, and then it's undebatable, so an immediate vote requiring a 2/3 vote to do it.
Okay, so Trustee O'Brien, is that what you're proposing to do?
Yes, again, I don't think you can denegate a flag like that, so I am proposing to suspend the rules.
Okay, so do we have a seconder?
Point of order, Mr. Chair, sorry, point of privilege. Are we suspending the rules completely, or are we suspending one bylaw?
No, suspending the one bylaw that is pertinent to this action, and then after this action, it becomes back in force.
Correct. So can you tell me which bylaw you're suspending?
Parliamentary Kapoor, you probably can find it quicker than I can.
Chair, according to Roberts, a motion to suspend the rules does not need to specify which rule or rules, it just needs to specify the purpose. So Trustee O'Brien, I believe, is moving to suspend the rules and delete the resolved clause that's on the screen.
All right, so when another point of clarification, I'm sorry for interrupting, but so if we're suspending the rules, are you referring to all our bylaws?
I guess the full formal, through you, Chair, sorry. I guess the full formal motion, it would be that to suspend the rules that interfere with amending the motion by deleting the second, be it further resolved. So
can we just suspend
it
those
refers
then?
to the effect, not the rule. And then as soon as the effect is occurs, then the rules are back in, all the rules are back as usual.
Peter.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder going twice? Seconder going the third time? We do not have a seconder, so it is not in order. Trustee O'Brien, did you want to speak further to the amendment?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just think it's really important that we recognize, as coming from a privileged group, I am a privileged white cisgendered female. What does privilege mean? Privilege comes from the Latin privilegium, meaning a law for just one person, a benefit enjoyed by an individual or group beyond what is available to others. Any right, immunity, or benefit enjoyed only by a person or group beyond the advantages of most. An unearned advantage that a dominant group has over marginalized groups. Enjoying a special right or advantage that most people do not have. Allows a person to not be subject to usual rules or penalties, exempt. A set of unearned benefits given to people who fit into a specific group. A right granted to some, but not to all. A specific benefit that is available only to a particular person or group. An advantage that is completely out of your control. Characteristically, invisible to those who have it. The absence of privilege triggers our awareness, not its presence. Exists when one group has something of value that is denied to others simply because of the groups they belong to, rather than because of anything they have done or failed to do. It allows people to assume a certain level of acceptance, inclusion, and respect in the world, to operate within a relatively wide comfort zone, operates on personal, interpersonal, cultural, and institutional levels, and gives advantages, favors, benefits to members of dominant groups at the expense of members of target groups. Privilege is granted to people who have membership in one or more social identity groups. And as a white female, as I said, and I think those of us sitting around the table should have a real look at where we fit in this and where we're making our decisions from, because we are looking at it from an advantage of privilege.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. Trustee Kelly, you're up.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I would like to touch upon this motion and saying how is standing up for inequality, how standing up to discrimination and standing up to harassment is being a bully. We're standing up to those who tell people like myself that we are sinful, tell us that we're not Catholic or deserving of God's love. Our first delegation has spoken about how 75.2% of students feel that to us LGBTQ+ students are not fully supported in one of our HCDSB schools. This research is one that they conduct of themselves as a student, and yet such a result speaks loud numbers. Supporting the traditional flag can help to show that we care as a school board. The colors of the rainbow flag itself represents the many colors, or in this way, the many diverse people in the LGBTQ+ community. Today, the most common variant has 6 stripes, starting with red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, blue for serenity, and violet for spirit. And if one must argue that the flag had such a meaning of sexuality originally, one must look at the flag in its entirety. referencing the Diocese of Hamilton's document To Listen, to Reason, and to Propose. Subsection, the rainbow flag, under the section To Listen context, states the following. Though Baker, the creator, originally assigned meanings to each color, over time, the colors have come to represent diverse people who have come together to form something beautiful. The rainbow. The rainbow itself is also a gift from God, a beautiful symbol of God's covenant with humankind. Is this not already a symbol of God that does not need to be replaced by a separate flag? Substituting the traditional flag is a very loud statement that announces that to the LGBTQ+ community that we support you, but not once did Jesus ever preach, love one another as thyself, but. This is not in any way political. This is a matter of creating a safer educational space for all students, especially those who are condemned and marginalized. To acknowledge a marginalized group, to support members of community, and to love wholly as our Savior did, has never been and will never be political. I hope you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. Are there any other trustees who would like to speak to this amendment? If not, Trustee DeRosa will close. Seeing that there is no others that have requested to speak, Trustee DeRosa, please close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my fundamental concern is not meeting the expectations that have been created. I feel for the plight of these kids, not only LGBTQ, but all the ones that are made to feel different and not included and bullied. I believe to Trustee Agnew's comments about, and please don't, if I misinterpret your comment, let me know, but I think the option is either the pride flag or none at all. I understand that a lot of the students identify to that, and my struggle has been not only for the purpose of including everyone, but also my struggle has been the reluctance of some students to accept this, if you will, a compromise flag. So I'm putting forward this motion and this suggestion to try to find a middle ground. And it is not an ideal situation, but it is a step forward, a first step forward to achieve the end goal. And the end goal is a sustained program of inclusion throughout the year, a sustained program of mandating our teachers, our educators to attend training in this regard, because I understand now it's a voluntary thing. So it's a program, it's a step forward in trying to do more and continue to do more. I would be just as happy as not flying any flag, to tell you the truth, but I'm suggesting a middle ground to reach out to those who are looking at the symbolism of this. So, and at the same time, I'm also concerned with the optics of flying and the political optics of flying a flag that is only addressing one minority group in our schools. I know that that's not the objective for many, but it will send a message. So, look, I have spoken to both sides of this issue. I have personally reached out and set up conversations with mothers who are living the experience of having a daughter or a son going through these questioning themselves. I'm not insensitive to that. But when I appeal to my humanity and to offer at least a gesture of compromise in a debate which is so divisive, and I've heard appeals from both. I've returned every call that was reached out to me. when I hear the both sides articulate the heart-wrenching decision that we have been asked to take. This is my best foot forward for the moment. I'm not questioning my understanding or my acceptance of the plight of the LGBTQ. I think that my personal life experience is evidence to how I personally feel towards this community. I'm inclusive. I've learned to love from my parents. And most of all, I'm afraid of disappointing, to tell you very honestly, I'm afraid of disappointing my family, and most important, my little 12-year-old granddaughter who originally brought me here, who said, Dad, no, you better run because I don't like the color of the uniforms. I hate to say it, I haven't gotten down to that issue yet. Look, this is my best kick at the can. I'm asking you to come and meet halfway and commit behind a program and a sustained program that will, in effect, deliver what we're really after. And that's to protect these kids, first of all, and then to give them the tools to be resilient in life when we're no longer there to take care of them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've said everything I had to say. I leave it to my fellow trustees. Good judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. So we're now going to move to a recorded vote on Trustee DeRosa's secondary amendment. Vice Chair Duarte, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Intomasi?
Mr. Chair, can you please recap what the vote is?
I
don't mean who voted how, what we're voting exactly on. Are we voting on the amendments as put forward by Trustee DeRosa in their entirety?
Yes, correct. How do you vote?
In favor.
Do we have Trustee Carabella back? We can come back if Rosie, if you could.
I'm opposed.
You're opposed? Thank you. Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta?
I oppose this amendment, opposed.
Trustee Gubert?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed.
Trustee Roshdi? Trustee Roshdi? We can come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew?
Opposed.
Trustee DeRosa?
I'm in favor, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Roshdi? We don't have Trustee Roshdi. He won't impact the vote, so the amendment fails. Going back to Trustee O'Hearn, time. We'll have to vote to extend. Can I have a mover to extend past 10:30?
Trustee Agnew?
Moved by Trustee Agnew. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta. Must be unanimous. Trustee Guzzo.
In favor.
Trustee Intomasi.
Favor.
Trustee Carabella.
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien.
Opposed.
Okay, so the motion fails, but we have to continue the vote. Trustee O'Hearn-Chernotta.
I'm in favor.
Trustee Gubert.
In favor.
Trustee Kelly.
In favor.
Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Roshdi. We'll come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew.
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa.
Mr. Chair, can you roll down the vote again, please?
So we have Trustee Guzzo in favor, and Tomasi in favor, Carabella in favor, O'Brien opposed, O'Hearn in favor, Goubert in favor, Kelly in favor, Agnew in favor.
Just a point of clarification, don't we need a unanimous vote to extend beyond 10:30?
Yes, so it has failed, but we have to continue with the vote just for the record.
Sorry, point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Guzzo, what's your point of order?
Under our bylaws, do we not have to finish the item that's on the table, the motion that's on the table, regardless of who it is?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
But we have to record
Can you
the vote.
Point of order and point of privilege simultaneously. Are you saying to me that the item that's on the table now is the amendment? Is Trustee Guzzo, or through you, Mr. Chair, Trustee Guzzo saying that we go back to the original motion?
We have to finish the action item 4.2 in whatever
so
form
you're saying
that
the
takes.
whole
It must
motion
be
in its entirety.
completed. We must complete this action
Sorry,
item.
you cut out.
Mr.
So
Chair,
you're saying that the motion in its entirety, so we're going back to 4.2, complete with the amendments that have already passed, and then we bring it back to the original motion that was put forward by Trustee Agnew, correct?
No amendments have passed. But yes, that's correct. We have to go back to the main motion and either deal with it as a main motion or deal with it as amended.
All right, can we get clarification from the parliamentarian, please?
Mr. Kapoor, can you give your opinion on that ruling?
Yes, Chair. Bylaw 4.1.8 states that in any event, the board shall not conduct its business beyond 10:30 p.m. without the unanimous consent of members present, save for the item on the table. You have previously ruled that that last phrase, save for the item on the table, refers to the action item that is currently being considered. So that would be, in this case, as you just said, that this meeting continues till the completion of our action item 4.2.
Thank you. So Trustee DeRosa, how do you vote?
in favor.
In favor? Okay. Vice Chair Duarte?
In favor.
And Trustee Murphy's in favor. So we are extended for half an hour. So now we are moving back to the primary amendment. On the speakers list, we have Trustee O'Brien. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And if we could please scroll, if we could please, Rosie, bring that first amendment up of Trustee O'Hearn-Sonoda, a very robust one. And if you could just center on the first be it resolved that's not struck out. So I guess it's the second be it resolved, but the first one that actually hasn't been touched yet. Be it resolved, the Halton Catholic School Board create a shared understanding through the mandatory training, etc. Next, the one higher, please. Yes, thank you. I move to amend an insertion that after the word Ontario Human Rights Code, we see the words and, A&D, Section 93 of the British North American Act, and Section 93 of the BNA, if you want, whatever. I think there's an N after American. I think. I move this amendment.
I will second, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And I want to just thank Trustee O'Hearn-Sonoda for being very thorough in this first be it resolved. She's included the Ontario Human Rights Code, which speaks very clearly of the protection of 2S LGBTQ plus students. My reason for inserting this in Section 93 of the British North American Act is because this does deal with oh, I am so sorry. I got the wrong one. I wanted the one that deals with denominational rights. Is that here? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I wanted this insertion in the next one. Rosie was right in the first place. Thank you.
Denominational rights is this line above.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Put it back in. That's what I want. Because this deals with denominational rights, and Section 93 of the British North American Act deals specifically with denominational rights, just to make sure we've backed it up with both of these important pieces of legislation, I like to include it. So again, the protection of 2S LGBT plus under Human Rights Code, protection of denominational rights under Section 3 of the British North American Act. That is my reason for this insertion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Do we have any questions, trustees? Anybody wants to speak to this? Seeing that there are no questions, Trustee O'Brien, you can close if you like, or?
No, I said everything that I needed to say. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take this to a vote. Trustee Director Daly would like the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Section 93 really speaks to provincial jurisdiction over education. I think Trustee O'Brien is referring to Section 19, which allows for denominational rights.
Trustee O'Brien, would you like to change that, the wording?
Mr. Chair, point of clarification, could we have Secretary Daly restate his comment?
Yes, Director Daly, could you restate your comment?
Just that it's Section 19 that provides the exemption for Section 93 of the Constitution.
Agreed. However, the British North American Act is the umbrella of the Canadian Constitution. So reference to the British North American Act includes the new Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just it was just a point of clarification. It's up to trustees to take that, to use that advice as they will. So seeing that there are no other questions, we'll move to a recorded vote. Trustee.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Trustee O'Brien.
I want to thank Director Daly for so kindly pointing that out to me, and he is right. And I'm going to take his advice, but I'm also going to keep in Section 93 of the British North America Act and include as well Section 19 of the Constitution.
Section 19 of the Human Rights Code.
Yes, sorry, of the Human Rights Code.
Ontario Human Rights Code.
And again, thank you so much, Director Daly. And I will just close by saying, I think the more references in here, the more weight it gives to Trustee O'Hearn's notice, very fulsome, be it resolved. Thank you.
The amendment as inserted and marked in blue on the screen in front of you. Trustee Carabella. Trustee Carabella. Sorry, Trustee Carabella.
Opposed.
You are opposed. Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Chernata?
I'm opposed.
Trustee Goober?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Kelly? Trustee Kelly? We'll come back to Trustee Kelly. Trustee Roshdi? Trustee Roshdi? Come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew?
Opposed.
Yes,
Trustee
yes,
DeRosa?
Mr. Chair.
So Trustee Roshdi, how do you vote?
In favor.
In favor, and I see Trustee Kelly has texted that she's opposed. Thank you. Trustee DeRosa?
I'm in favor.
Vice Chair Duar?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Intomasi? Trustee Intomasi? Do we have Trustee Intomasi on? Somebody can check for me. Can invite him back in if he dropped out.
I'm back
Trustee-
in. Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. How do you vote, Trustee Intomasi?
So we're voting to the amendment as proposed by Trustee O'Brien, correct?
Right, so it's on the screen in front of you in
Yeah,
blue.
no, I got that. Sorry. I'm getting 3 meetings at the same time. I don't know how I'm getting 3 meetings here. Anyways, I'm in favor.
In favor, so the motion fails. Amendment fails, sorry. So we are moving back to the primary amendment.
Mr. Chair, I have another amendment, please.
Okay, Trustee O'Brien, can you state your amendment?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. If Rosa could scroll down to the, be it further resolved that each class in each AC, be it further resolved that each school be mandated to have to post safe space signage to ensure that students in 2SL BGT community are supported throughout the entire year. I move that we take out the phrase post safe space signage. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do we have a seconder for this amendment? Seconder going once?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee Intomasi. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor to open.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, I want to thank Trustee Honsonoda for another very well put, be it further resolved. I consider with the phrase post safe space signage, and she answered my question clearly that there would be posters and signs of the pride flag. I guess my sentiment is to be consistent. If we're not going to fly the flag at the CEC or they're not the flag at any school, this would pretty much be like flying it in every classroom. So I think for the sake of consistency, I like this to keep this entire motion consistent. So that is why I'm taking, I'm moving to take this phrase out. Thank you.
Do we have anybody who would like to speak to this amendment? Seeing that nobody, I'll give one more. No, nobody is looking to speak to it. Trustee O'Brien, it's yours to close.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, I think it comes down to consistency. We've looked at all the pros and cons of flying the flag. I think we've made a decision, and I do think we have to be consistent across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. So we're going to move to a recorded vote. As you can see, the changes in front of you marked in red. Trustee O'Brien, how do you vote?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata?
I'm opposed.
Trustee Goober?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed.
Trustee Roshdi? Trustee Roshdi? We'll come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew?
Opposed.
Trustee DeRosa?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I stepped away. So can I have a point of clarification?
Yes, you'd like me to recap where we are, or you have a question?
No, I would like this. I would like to better understand the intent of this change.
Unfortunately, we're in the middle of the vote.
Okay. I'll abstain in that case, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Vice Chair Duer?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Antomasi?
Favor.
Trustee Carabello?
Favor.
Favor. Trustee Murphy is opposed. The amendment fails. We're going back to the primary amendment, moved by Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata. Do we have anybody who would like to speak to the primary amendment? Trustee O'Brien?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. I move that we postpone this indefinitely.
Parliamentarian Kapoor, is it in order to move a motion to postpone indefinitely?
Not at this time, Chair.
Okay. Unfortunately, we rule that your motion is out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We are back to, so I don't see any other hands who want to speak to this amendment. So we are going to allow Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata to close.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, and to my fellow trustees and everyone else watching, to senior staff at the Halton Catholic District School Board. I'm fully aware that this amendment is going to be disappointing to some folks. Please know the intent is to make change, and I appreciate to pass this amendment and to make some change for our students at Halton Catholic District School Board. That's really all I need to say. There's been a lot of talking tonight, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata. So we'll go to a recorded vote. Trustee Antomasi?
Favor.
In favor. Trustee Carabello?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn-Ternata?
In favor.
Trustee Goober?
Would you be able to come back to me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Kelly?
Opposed, as it does not fully support the motion brought up.
Thank you, Trustee Roshdi.
There is, Mr. Chair, keep in mind, Trustee Kelly, there is no debate during a vote.
Understood. We'll move on. Trustee O'Brien. Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Roshdi. We'll come back to Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew.
Can you come back to me, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, I have a point of order. The ruling that you made in conjunction with Parliamentarian Kapoor, 10.21 to postpone indefinitely. A motion to postpone indefinitely is to remove the main motion from the Assembly's consideration for the session without a direct vote on it. The motion is debatable.
definitely want to go back.
So, Trustee, I'll rule on your point of order. At this point, we've moved past that and we're into a vote, and we'll need to complete our vote.
Mr. Chair, point of order again. If we proceeded incorrectly, we're able to go back and revisit it because the vote is not complete.
Understood. My ruling is that we did not proceed incorrectly and we followed the correct procedure. That is my ruling, and we're going to continue our vote. Trustee DeRosa?
Sorry, but 10.20, I think you
Trustee,
need to
Trustee Antomasi, you're out of order. Trustee DeRosa, how do you vote? Trustee DeRosa?
Mr. Chair, to your credit, you're doing the best job you can do, but I'm confused now, so move on and come back to me.
Thank you. Vice Chair Duart.
In favor.
Vice Chair Duart is in favor. Trustee Guzzo.
In solidarity with student trustee Kelly, I'm opposed.
You're opposed. So we have Trustee Goubert.
I will abstain.
Abstain. Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Roshdi. Trustee Agnew. Trustee Agnew. Do we have Trustee Agnew? Trustee DeRosa, are you prepared to vote?
In favor, Mr. Chair.
In favor. Trustee Agnew?
Sorry, 1 second, Mr. Chair. I'm just having technical difficulties.
Mr. Chair, in the meantime, could we ask Parliamentarian Kapoor to interpret 10.21?
Trustee Antomasi, we can after this vote. I don't think it's an appropriate time, but we will after this vote. Trustee Agnew, did you correct your technical difficulties?
Abstain then.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Favor. Trustee Murphy is in favor. Motion passes. So now we vote on, so Parliamentary Kapoor, if you can correct me if I'm wrong. So now we are voting on this motion again. It now becomes the main motion as amended. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Chair. Yes.
Okay.
Would
Mr.
you
Chair,
like me to respond to the point of order that was raised? Or?
Yes, sorry, please do. I was getting ahead of myself.
No, thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to respond. Had Trustee Antomasi's point of order been well taken, it was too late to raise it because he would have needed to raise it before the first vote was cast. His motion, that being said, 1021 applies to postpone indefinitely if it is in order at the time. Or sorry, not 1020. Yeah, and 10.9 indicates clearly that a motion to amend takes precedence over a motion to postpone indefinitely. So while that motion was on the floor, a motion to postpone indefinitely was not in order.
Thank you for that opinion. So we are now going to
Chair.
Oh, sorry, Trustee O'Brien, do you have a point of order?
Well, I have another amendment.
Okay, so we are back at now, which is the main motion as amended. Could you state your amendment, please?
Thank you. Thank you through Mr. Chair. I would like to do a strikeout and insert from the word "be it resolved" until the word January 2022. I'd like to do a complete strikeout there.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, thank you. Yeah, getting the eyesight's not what it used to be. So can you just read it for everybody's clarification, Trustee O'Brien, what you're striking out, just so there's no confusion.
Everything from be it resolved until the word January 2022.
Okay.
In other words, the prior thing.
Okay, so you're striking out that the Halton Catholic District School Board create a shared understanding through mandatory training.
No, January 2022 is at the very bottom.
Let's strike out the whole thing.
Oh,
Correct.
so you are striking out this paragraph, the next.
Yes, every word.
Okay, so can we scroll up, Rosie, just to get an impact of what that is, what is left? So what action item is left in this motion?
I haven't made it yet.
Oh, you're inserting. Sorry, I thought you were just striking out. My apologies.
No, and insert the phrase, be it resolved that only the Canadian flag will fly at any of the schools of the HCDSB as well as the Catholic Education Centre.
So that's as you intend, Trustee O'Brien?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Seconder going twice? Seconder going 3 times? We do not have a seconder, so that amendment is not in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We will move to the now, which is the main motion as amended. Trustee O'Hearn, Chernota, did you want to close or can we just go call a vote?
No, I think we just call a vote.
Okay, Trustee O'Hearn, Chernota, how do you vote? Trustee O'Brien, do you have a point of order?
No, I have a motion.
I called the vote, Trustee O'Brien.
Actually, I move to postpone this motion indefinitely.
So let me ask Parliamentarian Kapoor. So Parliamentarian Kapoor, I called the vote. I did not hear Trustee O'Hearn Trunota's response. So is it valid then to move a motion, an amendment?
Mr. Chair, I was expecting.
Trustee O'Brien, please wait.
I do not practice ventriloquism, Chair. This is my real voice. The first vote had not been cast, therefore it would still be in order to accept this motion if it's seconded.
Okay. Trustee O'Brien, can you state your motion to amend?
I move, it's not to amend, I move to postpone this motion indefinitely.
Okay. Parliamentarian Kapoor, is that in order to move to postpone indefinitely at this point?
At this time, it is in order, Chair.
Okay. So we're, Trustee O'Brien has moved the motion to postpone indefinitely. Do we have a seconder? We have a seconder going twice. Do we have a seconder going 3 times? We do not have a seconder, so that is not in order. Well, no, it doesn't matter because we've already we're already had that vote turned out. So we're voting on the main motion. Trustee O'Hearn Chernota, how do you vote?
I'm voting in favor of the main motion as amended. Yep.
Trustee Goubert?
Please come back to me, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Kelly,
Opposed to amendments.
Trustee Roshdi, Trustee Roshdi, we'll come back. Trustee Agnew,
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa,
In favor.
Vice Chair Duarte,
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo, Trustee Guzzo,
Can you come back to me? Sorry, I got distracted there.
no problem. Trustee Antomasi,
All right, so we are now voting on the crossed out portions of it, be it further resolved. I can't see this. If somebody could enlarge it for me, please.
we emailed it to you also.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to touch anything. Otherwise, I've already got 2 meetings going on here and I don't know how I'm getting them, but nonetheless.
Right. How do you vote,
I'm against.
Trustee?
I'm
You're
against.
Okay. Trustee Carabella,
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien,
Can you come back to me, please?
yes, I can. Trustee Goubert,
I will abstain.
Trustee Roshdi, I don't know if Trustee Roshdi's on the line any longer. Trustee Guzzo,
This completely defeats the purpose of flying the flag, of not flying the flag. However,
Point of order, Mr. Chair, there's no debate here. It's a vote.
understood. Trustee Guzzo, please provide your vote.
that being said, hesitantly and begrudgingly in favor.
Trustee O'Brien,
In favor.
Trustee Murphy is in favor, so the motion carries. We do not have a vote to extend. We'll go to closing prayer. Do we know who is? Janet, Trustee O'Hearn-Trinata, you're on closing prayer.
Thank you. Let's make the sign of the cross in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Just give me 2 seconds. God, we remember today those who are marginalized and suffering in situations of conflict. Today we declare your loving character. We declare you love each individual person on this earth. You see each heart and you hear each cry and prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you for your participation tonight and your cooperation. Have a good night.